For grain, I did already record on this
Okay.
computer.
Okay.
Now,
Okay. Hello and welcome and hello, Moreness. Okay, this is something very, very interesting because I'm trying to practice that treating everything as a being in my life. Okay, if Moreness is a being, how am I going to treat that? Like I was
mm,
doing for the grain. Like, okay, grain is a being for
mm,
me. Okay, these live sessions are being. How am I going to treat that? And so far, what I'm getting as a benefits of it is that it is helping me to be appropriate first, second, uh, to be thorough with my interactions, and how I'm doing that. Like, okay, coming to life. If 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 I'm feeling satisfied after the live, that okay, I was being appropriate and and I try to deliver my best, okay, and my I try to materialize my intent to extract value, maximum value out of it. All check, then it's good. So if Facebook lives like this one is a person, if I was being thorough with my dealing with it or with my interaction with that person, at the end of the meeting, we both will be happy. This is what I want to achieve that. So that's why I'm just saying that, okay, hello, Moreness. So today I said, okay, now I'm going to introduce another person in my life as a being. Okay, not person, but a being, Moreness. Okay, how am I going
oh,
to interact with Moreness? So these are a few things I'm practicing in my life. And just before coming to live today, so before I go there, still, hello, and please say
hello,
hello
hello,
because
Beena,
I always
hello,
get
hello, Beena.
yes. So thank you, and hello everyone. Also, whoever is going to watch us live or recorded, hello and welcome to another live today. We are going to read the story. Um, I just before coming to live today, I was asking sir, when we make decisions in our life, some radical decisions, some really important decisions, sometimes decisions which are like quite rebellious in nature, rebellious against the norms of society, norms of your culture, norms of your personal culture, norms of your maybe religion also, and some other uh, something different, something unusual. When we make
Yeah,
those decisions and we do that, no matter what type of decision it is, no matter what consequences of that decisions would be, when we are into that mindset, when we really have to do something, in those moments, at least my personal experience says that we don't think about the consequences. We actually want to experience that we can do that. How it is going to end is not mostly not a thought. No, the most important issue in those moments is I want to do this. Can I do this? And then I can do this. This is what we want to experience. Can we go against the norms? Can we really do this? Do we have that strength? We don't think about the decision itself that, okay, oh, yes, what it is. It could be anything. Sometimes really adventurous things like, okay, the result could be like, this is what you were doing. That is not important. Important is when people try to do something which they feel is important for them. But later on, sometimes we forget about that. The real intent was to experience that, to really initiate something, to really stand for ourselves, that okay, for your choices. The result could be like complete disaster, like, okay, not so right, not so important, not so appropriate, whatever. But when we were doing that, the most important thing is that I want to practice my freedom to do anything. And this is what people stands for. But the problem starts when we forget about that. And then we start pondering our heads on the result or the consequences of that. Oh, this happened. And then we start feeling embarrassed. And then we start feeling like, oh, guilty of. But that is not a point to do something new. The point to do something new is without having any ego attached to that. I want to exercise my freedom. Okay, yes, it is not going to affect anyone else, and that it has to be in consideration. After that, results could be anything. So what? I exercise my right of freedom. That is what was important, because if we have that intent clear, then we will learn from that. Otherwise, we will never learn from that. Then it will be like, okay, oh, now, oh, that was a waste of time. That was a waste of energy. Oh, I got so many lashbacks and all sort of criticism and everything. Yes, it is going to be. I need to live in those moments. Why I was keen to exercise my right of freedom, my freedom of being. This is what I was trying to do. Okay, yeah, the result or the consequence could be wonderful, could be disastrous, could be anything. I think that this is very important, and I really wish that we all get lucky when we are trying to do something like this. We get people in our life who can really emphasize the clarity or the importance of the clarity of intent for us. That why we are doing something.
Say that again, please, Beena. Say that sentence again.
I really wish that all of us in our lives will have someone who can make the importance of the clarity of intent really clear for us.
Yes, yes. I just want to pause here real quick just to say hello to Norma.
Hello,
Hello,
Norma.
hello. I just love it here. Very cool, very cool. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Not all of
message
us.
money.
Okay. Not all of us are
Yeah.
that lucky that we can get someone or something, maybe a book or some incident in our life, which can give us the clarity of the importance of intent, clarity of intent, because this is so crucial. Then we can do in life. Okay, for others it might be like, okay, why you did that? I live in those moments. I learned about myself. I become more self-aware. I got so much awareness. Now I have learned, so I'm going to make more sophisticated, more impeccable, more appropriate decisions in my life. But if we will just do this and then later on we will forget about that what was the basic, true, initial, crucial intent, then we will just start beating with the results and the consequence. The consequence could be anything in any nature, by any nature. Like, oh yeah, okay, disastrous, wonderful, whatever. That was not the point. Mostly in our young age, why children just start running? Why? For no
Start or
particular
stop?
goal. No, say they simply start running. When they are excited, they're running. Okay, where are you going? No idea. Why are you
Right. They
running?
just
No
run. They
idea.
just run mindlessly. That's what you say.
Exactly. That
Yeah. Yeah.
mindlessly running is because they want to exercise that energy, the energy they have. That's it.
Yeah.
No reason needed for that. When they are excited, they are full of energy, they start running. They want to jump. Why they were jumping? Because they want to do that. And this is sometimes we forget about that, and we start focusing on the consequences and the result and implications of that decisions, and that start self-blaming, guilt, and complaints, and also sometimes complete isolation from the world. That okay, oh, because oh yes, I'm feeling embarrassed, I'm feeling ashamed, all sort of nonsense. The clarity of intent is the most important thing in our life,
Yes. 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 Very, very
even for
important.
doing nonsense.
I love this. I love this. Beena. I love this. And look who's joined us. Look who's joined us.
Okay.
Very good. Very good timing.
I don't see anyone. Oh,
Hello.
oh
Hello,
wow.
mystery
Hello,
person.
Sher. Hello, Sher.
Hey, how are you?
Oh wow, that's wonderful. Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
look
good
at you.
too, Miss
Look at
Beena.
you. Wow.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I
Yes.
know. I dropped some weight.
Oh no, it's
Yes.
not only weight, it's an energy also.
Yes.
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 Oh, you look
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
You know, you
That
could
water.
say in one way that, you know, you drop that weight on you, on yourself, but it's so much that you could say you essentially dropped your old self.
Oh, I did.
Oh, yes.
I did. Internal
Yes.
and external.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was just
Exactly.
whole,
It's profound, because
yeah,
that's
whole
when the
transformation.
change started coming. Look, you tried for a long time, and I think what's happened. But when you started to claim your new self, and the old self was no longer relevant or necessary or appropriate,
Right.
that shield and the comfort, the barrier, and all that, the
That's
physicality
so wonderful.
lamented. Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, you being severely overweight wasn't a medical issue or a diet issue. No, it was a psychological issue from a
Oh,
your
absolutely.
point of view. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes.
Now, Sher's here for a very particular reason, right? I mean,
Oh,
as much
wow.
as we're happy to see Sher anytime,
Yes.
there is a come on now. There's a particular reason for it, and I will do that
Mm-hmm.
in one moment. Just have to switch back profile, get
Boy,
back
they
into
make
group.
water bottles.
We are going to read Beena. Now,
Mm-hmm.
before we came on, I was sharing with Beena the anomalousness of what I've been doing for the past week. For the past week, I've been reformatting the first book I published, right?
Okay.
The book on BMNs. Yeah, and
Mhm.
why am I doing this? Because as I mentioned to you, my second book, they said, oh, you can make an audiobook using this new beta virtual voices. This is on Amazon, right? Which
Right.
which is a free program where you can convert your book to an audio book using one of their virtual voices. Now, these are really cool voices. I mean, I can play a little bit of it, but it's not appropriate here. Anyway, but so I could do it on my second book, but I couldn't do it on the first one. And the problem was that my first book doesn't have a linked table of contents. Why not? I made a point to put this in. It was anomalous, right? So I go to my file and I go back, and now I'm trying to get this appropriately set up in Amazon so that they will accept it and I can do the audio. I
Mhm.
upload a file. No, I go and reformat. Basically, I'm now on about my sixth effort of going through my
Oh,
entire file and restructuring the formatting. Right? I can show you in a second. Well, basically, it's just like the spacing got messed up, and then the headings and the chapter headings and the subheadings, they got messed up, and I had to tag them and say, okay, highlight it. This is a heading, and this is a subheading, and then change the spacing. Anyway, so I've been doing this the whole week already. The result is that I've been really focused on my book. And I'm making this a point about anomalies and peculiarity and how things connect, and it's going to connect now to your article. So I've been immersed in my book about BMNs, and
uh-huh.
it changed something in me, because when you list a book on Amazon, you got to put the description there, right? And that description is something that, well, you can take like your back cover description, or you can say something more specific. Essentially, it's advertising copy. That description is what, when people look at your book and they've come there through the advertising, okay, this is a book about narcissism, and I'm looking for a book about narcissism, and then they read down and, oh, is this for me or not? This is what determines your conversion rate. Click is when they click on the listing, you click on your book, and
Yeah.
then they read that. If they buy, this is the conversion rate. It's very important, right? But that that description is what determines whether somebody buys the book or not.
Mhm.
Furthermore, it determines whether or not they leave a review, because your book can be fantastic and good, as this book is, but it's not for everyone. And I say this in my description: it's not for everyone. This is not
Yeah.
entertainment reading. It's not a book about, like, like Stephen King. He writes about BMNs a lot, but he puts it in fiction. It's a book about, all right. Anyway, so
Yeah.
all of this focus led me to a much more acute, specific understanding of updating that description to really say more precisely who this is for. Because really, what the book is for people who are or have been in a some kind of an interaction or relationship with the BMN, and typically they got into it because they were in love with a person, or they got immersed, and now they need to get out. But what does it mean to get out? Whether they are physically in the relationship or not, they may actually be divorced but not involved in it, doesn't matter. Internally, psychologically, they're still connected to those people, right?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Because they have to acknowledge, first of all, that they were wrong about this person.
That's
a
a
big
hard
deal,
thing to do.
right? Now,
Yes, it is.
that's first thing. Secondly, they have to acknowledge that that they love the person, and well, that they don't love them anymore and can't love them anymore. At least not in the way they did then. They can love it as a human being, but not in that intimate, personal, joyful way, right? So you have to give up on that, the intimacy, yes. And that's hard. Even if the person is physically abusing you, to give up on love is very difficult. And that's the third point: to give up on, kind of psychologically, in a way, giving up a bit on love itself, to acknowledge that you loved, you committed to love forever, and now you have to say no more. Yeah? So three things that you have to do that are massively, massively profound and consequential, phenomenally consequential. Now, if you're going to make this decision, those three decisions, right? This change, right? Acknowledge you're wrong, give up on the person that you love, and in a sense, give up on kind of love in itself. Not 100%, but that's the feeling at the time. You cannot do this based on belief alone.
No.
It doesn't matter how much everybody tells you this person's a BMN. You need to be convinced they are. Yes? And this is why that book is, or the program, if you want to do it as a program, it comes at the BMN from every possible facet. And I was just looking at it. I got more than 100 major facets of looking at the BMN. Why is this important? Because you read the first and you go, yeah, that's exactly how they are. But you still believe that, but maybe I can change them. Maybe I was wrong. And that's the biggest other part, right? Most people in that relationship, they don't think the BMN is the problem. They think they are. Yeah, right? Right, Sher? You're talking about somebody who's been there, right?
Absolutely.
They think they're wrong. So first of all, they have to understand, oh, it's not me. It's this person, which is why these multiple facets. But you read and you nod along and say, yeah, that's them. But maybe it was still me. Maybe I did. Maybe. My point is that the book comes at the BMN from these multiple facets, which if you're not in a relationship or haven't been, if you're not in that particular psychology, you might say, but you're kind of belaboring the point a bit yourself. It needs to be belabored. Why? It's not truly repetitive. You're describing the same thing, but from multiple different angles. So of course, there's a little bit of overlap there and some repetition. But when a person is in need of being convinced, they need this massive extra dose. Because just saying one or two, that's not enough. 5, 6 is not enough. 10, 20 is not enough. You need to get to that 50, 60, 100 points of hammering it through to you that it's undeniable. There's no way I can now deny that this person is a BMN and I made a mistake and I have to give up on my love of them. Right?
And then you have to grieve.
It has to be undeniable. And that's what the book does, because it was written with that intent. Yes. But it's not in my description. And I am going to change my description to what I've just explained now. I'm going to put this in the description, right? To say precisely why it is the way it is. It is to assist those in need of shifting from a belief to a conviction. Because when you're convinced, you can let go. You cannot let go of such a profound thing as love and being so massively wrong. Because when you're wrong in this way, this is a very profound thing to acknowledge. Because it means if I was wrong then, I can be wrong again. Yes. So I have to truly be convinced, and I have to know why exactly I was wrong. And no, it wasn't me. No, they exploit my naivety in this, right? Yes, I do need to be less naive, less gullible, but also typically I need to be less desperate. Yes?
Yes.
So I was quoting this quote for Beena. It's a very profound quote that I wrote in the book. None so willing to believe as those so desperately willing to believe. None so easy to deceive as those so desperately willing to believe. It's that desperately willing to believe. Desperately willing to believe this person is the person of their dreams. Because, of course, when you start with the BMN, they're fantastically charming, right?
Yeah.
So we want to believe they are charming, they're the right person for us. That is what you need to get out of, right? So you do have to change also, but you need to be convinced of these truths before you can change. Because if we just change on belief, we'll be chopping and changing all day long, right? And we'll never get anywhere. So the conviction is the key, which is why the whole book is the way it is. Anyway, this is all a preamble to saying I'm so involved in all this, but I just wanted to share that because it helps me, because it cements it more when I have to write that description there. So
Absolutely.
Beena and I were going over this before, right? But now Sher messaged me just before. Well, I saw the message right as I started the live, and I came to Facebook, and I'm sharing screen and looking at things, right? Oh, yes, a message from Sher. I don't know how long ago you sent it, right, with the Ferris wheel.
Oh, maybe about an hour ago.
Okay, so I only saw it right as I started the live, and so I said I can't respond now because, well, I guess Beena and I were all involved in it.
Yeah.
And there were other messages that I was responding to. At any rate, so I saw this message right as the live says, and said, "Oh, sure, I'll come back a little bit later." And then what did you say to me? Say, "Oh, it's about BMNs and something else." You said, right?
Narcissist and BMNs, yeah.
Yeah, narcissism and BMNs. And I said, well, let me just turn this off. Yeah, there we go. I said, and then you said, yeah, but maybe you can read it on the live. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. It does take courage, Norma. Yes, exactly. And sometimes need to see the real path. Yes, that would be a capital P path. Absolutely, Norma. And now, somebody else. See, what is our chapter about? This is a hierarchical, connectivity of moreness and importance. The chapter that we're still busy on is Boynal and anomalies, and then the last one, the anomaly of Boynal. The theme is anomalies, right?
Yes.
So this whole anomaly of me getting involved with my BMN book again, all of this, it all connects, right? Now it's connecting to you sharing this article of yours that you said, oh, read. I thought, wow, sure, it's Sunday. Typically we read the whole story. There's not really space for this kind of thing. But I said, oh, we'll make an exception here because it's anomalous, right? So, okay, very cool. Now, furthermore, somebody messaged me and said, they're having a problem with, or they have had with BMNs and the people they're involved in, and they've heard somebody, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so they're looking to get connected, right? Very specifically with being in a, well, not a personal relationship with BMNs, but in a relationship with BMNs from a like a mentoring, a life coaching point of view, right? Or program, whatever. So they asked me to get together, and we'll connect later on today. So see, the whole theme is all coming and connecting. But I was saying to Beena though that I'm only going to. They want my assistance in dealing with this particular issue, and I can say, okay, explain about the BMNs and this and that, but that's not the real problem. The real problem is you need to change. I can tell you what the issue is in terms of the BMNs and how they are. But if you're still vulnerable and desperate and too eager and naive and gullible and not impeccable and all of this stuff, well, you're just going to be taken advantage of by somebody else. I can help you with the people that you're particularly embroiled in and get you disconnected. But it still leaves the problem. In other words, I can get you out of debt. But if you don't learn not to be a spendthrift that spends more than that they have, you're just going to get back into debt again. So you have to learn not only the discipline of financial discipline, but you need to learn how to make money as well, right? You have to have both of those skills in order to stay out of debt, right? You have to be able to make money and not waste the money, right? Overspend. So this is very important to understand and connect to our whole theme. Yes, it's good to understand the BMNs, but like for this person now, to help them, they really have to come into Way-of-Impeccability.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Yes, they can do the psychology of the superiority paradigm, which is again all about, it's the book in course form. And that will help them get out of this situation, but you need both really, right? As you can attest from personal experience. All right.
Yep.
On that note now, let me pull up Sher's
it's just a short poem.
Oh, it's a poem.
It's a poem. I wrote it for my book.
Even better then. Okay, so let me open you up.
Very short one.
Yeah. Let me open this in Messenger so that I can have it bigger, and I don't want to synchronize all my things. I'm happy with them being different on the different devices. Facebook, it keeps it exciting. Don't sync. Every time they ask me this, and every time I say don't sync, and then they don't. Okay, so it starts with are they? Yes.
Well, yes.
But that's the poem. Starts with are they? Because there's
Yeah.
other stuff above that, and I just want to read the poem.
Oh yeah, no, it starts with are they?
Okay.
Now this is the unedited version that you're reading, so
that's fine. That's fine. And I'm also reading it blind, cold. I've never read it before,
yes.
So it's a test for everything. All right, here we go. Sher's poem. What's the title of your poem?
I don't have one yet. Oh, facade.
The Ferris wheel of facade.
Yeah.
Huh? Because you got your Ferris wheel here, so I don't know. I just jumped into my
I do
mind.
like it.
The Ferris wheel, because it really is. Facade is kind of a Ferris wheel, right? We see, depending where you're on it. Right, okay. The Ferris wheel of facade by Sher Unbound. Are they filling the void within, with names adorned in beauty's spin? Do you embrace them in nightly reverie, touching realms where I'd hoped we'd be? What significance do I bear in your gaze, and how many admirer do you amaze? Perhaps they nourish your self-esteem's glow, comments and likes, those spotlights flow. Seeing substance in visages void, merely to fill the emptiness deploy. Now I'll grieve the part of me that stepped into your menagerie. It's empty hearts who wear a facade. I can't afford to play your charade. Wow. Very cool. Very, very cool. I really thought I missed a line. I was about to read, scratch that. I think I found one. That's part of the poem, but no, it's not. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah. It's empty hearts who wear facade. I can't afford to play the charade.
Yeah.
To make the rhyming there. The threw me out. My editor just jumping in on it a little bit. Right?
Oh, that's why I said a little editing necessary.
Yeah, right. You see, like if you go, it's empty hearts who wear facade. I can't afford to play charade.
Right.
How do you say? How do you rhyme it? You say facade?
Facade and charade are the same, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I say charade, not charade.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking. Yeah, no, it rhymes. That's why I read it as charade in order to rhyme with facade. But I missed the within. I read within, where I've got to read it as within and spin.
Oh.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you read it once, now I know. I'll read it again. Are they filling the void within, with names adorned in beauty's spin? And actually, sure, to get that within, remove the I and put an apostrophe.
Okay, I don't have it open yet, but you said
no, I know. But when you are in within, if you remove the I and put an apostrophe, then it's read as within. Right?
Okay.
Right? Like yeah, sorry, like and when you take out the A and replace it with an apostrophe, then you get right? So are they filling the void within, with names adorned in beauty's spin? Do you embrace them in nightly reverie? Reverie. How would you saying that? Reverie? Reverie. Do you embrace them in nightly reverie, touching realms that I hope we'd be? What significance do I bear in your gaze, and how many admirers do you amaze? Wow, that's fantastic. Yes, it's totally for the BMNs here, right? I mean, let's do capital R reading with it. I was going to read it through the whole thing, but are they filling the void within, names adorned in beauty spin? In other words, yes.
Right.
If I understand your poem correctly, yeah. Beena, please jump in anytime here, right? Do you embrace
I'm
them?
listening.
Do you embrace them in nightly reverie? Do you fantasize about them?
That's what that means.
Is it? I'm asking. Okay, I'm just checking.
Yeah. I said, that's what that means.
Yeah, right. In other words, it's a very gentle way to say, you're having all sorts of fantasies because it's nightly reverie, not
Yes.
daily, right?
Yes.
So I mean, this is
Yes.
okay.
And then
Since
and then
Beena
how they
here,
tend to collect
right?
how they tend to collect people, you know, they amass people.
Correct.
Especially through social media.
Right. And particularly through the charm they put out, which is connected to romance. And, you know, in other words, these are, since Venus here, we'll call them libido rebels, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a particular type of a fancy, which is where the nightly comes in, right? So if we look at the skill of the poet here, right, they're saying in a very gentle way, are you having lustful thoughts about these people?
Exactly.
Okay, very beautifully done. This is the magic of poetry, right? Now, I'm unpacking it, which doesn't make it so pretty, but it's to get to the meaning, right? Because you may miss that in nightly reverie, right? Do you embrace them? And you said embrace, you see? It's very powerful. And this is how they grab you, how they get you. This is wonderful poems, wonderful poems.
Absolutely. They tell you, they tell you all the things desperate to hear.
Right. Exactly. And look at the next line here now. Now we've established that this nightly reverie is this inappropriate romance. Yes. Touching realms where I'd hoped we'd be. You're talking to the BMN, at least to the image. Like I was saying in the relationships, right? The people that the book are for. You involved in a relationship and this person is, you know, you love them and they're nice and wonderful, right? But you know, it's about facade, right? It's about the Ferris wheel of facade, right? And you say, are you filling the void within with names adorned in beauty's spin, with beauty's spin, right? So are you filling your void? And that's very key. None so easy to deceive as those so desperately willing to believe. That's the void.
That's it.
That's the void, right? See how it all connects. It all connects. It's so powerful, right? With names adorned in beauty spin. Now, names is individual people, right? That's what names means here, correct? Not names specifically. I mean, names could potentially get a synonym for it there, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just giving you full critique. I'm giving you full capital R reading. You know, it's what we do.
Hey,
it's a wonderful poem. Yeah,
that's why I sent it to you.
Right, I just say potentially, but all right, we're doing it, you know, on a live now. But it's fantastic, right? But potentially, it doesn't have to be. But again, the reason I say names could potentially find a synonym, because somebody might think you connected to the name itself, that you're enamored with a really nice name. You know, they're a really cool name, right?
No.
You know, like in the old days, you know, like magic and all this, you have a magical name, you can't speak it out loud, and that name enchants you, that kind of a logic. You know? So, right. Anyway, touching realms where I'd hoped we'd be. Again, that those realms, this is the fantasy idea that you're being pulled in by the allure because you're desperate for it, as we already established, right? What significance do I bear in your gaze? And how many admirers do you amaze? This is really amazing. This is a very amazing point, right? So this is in these relationships. This is so often the case where there is this, if I'm understanding this correctly, right? So again, this is my take on it. I may not be 100% accurate here, but it's kind of fun to test one's perception when you have a chance. Beena, are you here still? Are you, Beena? I want to hear from Beena too.
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, please jump in.
Amazing. Okay, what a dense topic, and then how beautifully you said that.
And the magic of this in its appropriateness is incredible. It's fantastic. All right. Yes. So what significance do I bear in your gaze? In these types of relationships, right? Especially if it's a one from that's a bit of an afar thing, where you enamored with a facade, right? Like when you were in the group in Miles' group, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There's this facade, and this has come up. This is very relevant.
It's come up multiple times in my life. Yeah.
Well, I mean, today it has come up. Fantastic. Now, anyway, but the problem is in that type of the vibe that they push, their facade that they push is looking to snare you. And it has all of this cueing to precisely get you into thinking positively about them and having the nightly reveries and all this, right? but the problem is you're now starting to sort of say, but hold on a second, right? What significance do I bear in your gaze? Well, very little. You're only a source of income to them, or a source of boosting the ego, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but at least you now starting to question. And remember what we were talking about, hearing implication.
Yes.
That right there is hearing implication, right?
Yes.
Now you're expressing it in a very poetic way, right? What's it? There's some. Hang on a second, but I'm not the only one here, right? And this is very common, of course, with the BMNs, right? That they want to have everybody, admiring them and worshiping them and all this nonsense. How many admirers do you amaze? Now, that's a beautiful way to say it. And of course, you're rhyming too, so it's very skillful, right? How many admirers do you amaze? And amaze is not how many admirers do you have. I mean, they might legitimately deserve admirers, correct?
Right.
But amaze means, in other words, how many are you, like when they say with the vampires, they put a glamour on you, right? When they glamour you, you see them as beautiful when actually they're this horrible, ugly monster. So that amazes, right? It's manipulate, in other words, to believe that you're positive. But also that line, how many, these two lines, this couplet, what significance do I bear in your gaze? How many admirers do you amaze? This is now touching on the insecurity of the admirer, the person that's writing the poem, right? Not you, the poet, but by implication, right? Because they are now, right? I mean, yes, you are at the same time, you are illuminating the manipulation of the BMN, right? Of the facade, right? Of the BSF, right? But at the same
There's
time,
also
it
resented
exposes
jealousy in there too.
Precisely. That's exactly where I'm heading with this, right? Because
there's a hint of jealousy.
Right. They create, but they also, it's part of the relationship. They create this idea and image that you are the one and the only, you, the most fantastic thing in their lives, right? But then they do this with everybody. So they feed on your insecurity by making you feel the most important, right? But the person in this poem here, right? Your poem person, not sure. Maybe you were at some point in the past, but it's not you now.
Right.
You're writing on what you know. But the person, the poem person, is also starting to be aware. But wait a minute, I'm not the only one here, right? And we start to hear their insecurity and the jealousy, of course, that now going to follow from that, right? When you start to be aware that I'm not the only one, right? What significance do I bear in your gaze? That's a loaded question, right? And by implication, I want to be important. You've told me I'm important, but am I really? Huh? So now we get this problem coming into it, right? And of course, if I want to be the one and only, and I'm not, well, then I'm going to be jealous. That's typically how it goes, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Right. You try to leave, but you can't. I mean, that's the hard part.
Because you hooked on that desire to be special and be the one and only and significant, right? This is how they get you. This is how they get you, the BMNs, right? And to me, this is a big deal. I make a lot of effort to make sure that that's not part of my relationship. I try very hard not to have that, because even though I have no intent to do what the BMNs does, that doesn't mean that on the other end that this isn't that need for it isn't there. Yes, so I have to be very careful, right? Anytime you're involved in a situation, like where you have participants, friends, doesn't matter, where you have something to share, and this can happen inadvertently, right? You finding yourself in the same situation now, right? In the reverse.
I do.
So very important, right? So we have to understand this. It's just part of human psychology, right? We have to be careful on our side that we don't inadvertently create this. We have to be very clear, right? All right. And how many admirers do you amaze? Perhaps they nourish your self-esteem's glow. Comments and likes, your spotlights flow, right? So yes, of course, this perhaps, the perhaps is a bit of a, let's put it this way, the perhaps is like, well, not really perhaps, this is so, but I'm just being a bit cautious and kind, maybe, but capital D diplomacy to say perhaps. No, there's no
Yes.
perhaps about it, right? But the perhaps
Right.
makes the reader think, well, what do you mean perhaps? Of course they are nourishing your self-esteem's low, comments and likes, your spotlight's low. And like, duh, girl, I mean, seriously. But see, this is the genius of it, though. You want the reader, the other, to come to the realization by themselves. No telling,
Yes.
see? So this is, well, you can't show exactly here, but you're sharing in a way that I put it together myself. Fantastic, fantastic. So yeah, that's like a duh. I mean, that's what they're all about, right?
Mhm.
Seeking substance envisages void, merely to fill the emptiness deployed. Wow, what a dense two line. Seeking substance envisages. There's an apostrophe missing there, right?
Oops, yes, probably.
All right. Well, because there's no, I don't know if you can see the screen share, but it's
No.
just visages plural. But no, it's the void of visage, and visage
Yes.
here facade, right? So definitely
Yes.
mean, and that's how I'm reading it. Seeking
Yes.
substance envisages void. In other words, that you, the BMN, and likewise those that you are glamoring, because that's the right word for this, what they do, glamour, glamour someone. This what they do. It is to seeking substance in the in facade, but they don't realize that it's a void. Now you saying seeking substance in facade's emptiness, they
Yes.
don't realize it, and that's the power of that statement. You're saying
Right.
that it is so. At the same time, you're making a statement, but you're also pointing out that it, because you're calling it a visitor's void, you to seek substance in visage's void, but that doesn't make any sense, sure. Exactly. It doesn't. And it doesn't. They don't realize it, right? And
no, because actually in that relationship, both people are doing that.
Exactly. That's why you're not saying one or the other. It's a neutral state, seeking substance in visage's void, merely to fill the emptiness deployed. That's why it's not written as perhaps they or me or you. There's no personal pronouns in there, right? It's a neutral statement because it applies to both, right?
Absolutely.
It's a general overview. It's a statement of understanding. It's a statement of awareness. It's a statement of insight. It's a layered statement. Very fantastic, right? And now for your rhyme, you came up with deployed, because void was very important, right? And it's interesting that you got a repeat of void now, right? So the void is emphasized. Right? And typically in this type of thing, one tries to avoid repeats because they don't.
Yeah, I'm still working on that.
No. In this case, it's appropriate, right? So in this case, void now as a repeat is epistrophic. That's the technical term for when you repeat deliberately for the purposes of emphasis and moreness, right? Epistrophe. I mean, I have an epistrophic poem that the me of now and then, right? Be gone, you ghost. Got a lot of repetition.
It does.
Right. It's an
does.
epistrophic poem, right? Now,
it does.
In this case, the void, it's not like, are they filling the void within, the void that shines, the void that beckons, the void that makes us fall into a spin, right? See, now there I've used void 3 times in 2 lines, right? But every time it's slight tweak, but it's really catching that flow of void. Wow. All right, so that's more like epistrophe. This is a little bit of a delayed epistrophe, but it's very important because this void is a very important point here, right? But also it's very powerful for that last word there, right? So we got seeking substance envisages void, merely to fill the emptiness, but you need to finish the rhyme. The emptiness, comma, deployed. Yeah. Deployed. Oh, that deployed is ridiculously potent here. Yeah. Because now in deployed, you are ascribing agency.
Yep.
You say, don't come and tell me that, hey, well, this just happened. You doing this deliberately. You're deploying this stuff. You are either seeking, the BSer is glamoring the others, but you as the glamored are equally desperate to be glamored. You're deploying. You're deploying the stuff, right? You
and then what interests me is something I noticed, I don't know, with somebody I'm working with, that the BMN, a lot of times, they're just assuming that the person that they're targeting or that they're, trying to hook into is going to have something to give them, whether it's emotions or whether it's, property, doesn't matter what it is, but they assume that there's something in there. But what if the person that they've hooked into has the same void?
Correct. And that's typically what happens. That's
Yep.
typically what happens. The birds of a feather, F together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a big deal. Yes, it's a bit crude there, but in this case, it's very appropriate. Right? In other words, they mess up. They get involved in the same muck together. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's precisely this. You becoming immersed in a void, both parties involved. Right? But why?
Yes.
Because you're both desperate. You're both insecure.
Yes.
You're just coming at resolving your desperation and your insecurity from different angles. Same underlying cause.
Yeah.
They're both hollow. That's why you use the word void. You
That's
both
it right
falling
there.
into the void because you have an internal void.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes. You start out hollow and you end up hollow.
Exactly. And it just reinforces it. But look at the genius of the universe. Your problem is hollowness, and it's involving you with hollowness to make you aware of your hollowness. Like I emphasized in the BMN book, right? That we get BMNs into our lives because there are exaggerations of what we have in us subtly. It's hard to notice the subtle, but when our attention is drawn to it via exaggeration, do I have this in me? Well, actually, you know what? I do have a little bit. So it's very powerful. It's the universe's mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
It is astonishingly powerful. Let me just format this here real quick so I can read it a little better.
I chose the word, and I know you haven't read the line yet, but I chose the word menagerie deliberately.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. We'll get there.
Do you remember?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you remember the movie The Glass Menagerie?
No, I know the name, but I don't remember it.
Another psychological thriller. But pretty sure it was. If I'm thinking of the right. Anyway, the word menagerie. It when I saw that picture of the girl at the Ferris wheel and all of that, all I kept thinking of was a carnival. A narcissist or a BMN relationship is very much like walking into the fun house at a carnival where you've got all of the crazy mirrors and you got the clowns and nothing is making sense. And you might even have faceless people. It's just, it's a nightmare. It really is. So I think it's kind of why I chose that particular word. I was thinking how people wear masks all the time. And so much so that we don't protect ourselves against getting into these relationships with a BMN. Anyway.
Say the last sentence again, please.
I said, we don't protect ourselves against getting into these relationships.
Exactly.
We can walk. We can be discerning. We can, if we know who we are in advance.
Right. In advance. Yes.
We need to know ourselves before we actually consider jumping into any of these relationships. And nowadays we have pardon me, Beena, but nowadays we have a hookup culture where that's all people want to do. They don't want to really explore the connection of relationships. Instead, it's just, let's hook up. And then they call it good. But then somebody's going to wind up getting hurt because somebody's going to get attached to the other person. Unfortunately, it's going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. Wow. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool, Sher.
Well, I'm glad this fit in with where your thoughts were lately.
Absolutely. It's most
like you
appropriate.
said.
Let me finish the reading. 1 second. Let me finish the reading. Okay. So, seeking substance envisages void, merely to fill the emptiness deployed. And look, that comma, it balances the meter of visages, right?
Yes.
The apostrophe in there for you. Right? Now the poem shifts, and actually, I would actually make this. Just take out some spaces here so that I can have this all on the same page. I would actually put this as a second stanza.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah.
See that?
Because it shifts now, right? So perhaps they nourish your self-esteem's glow, comments and likes your spotlight's flow, seeking substance in visages void, merely to fill the emptiness deployed. Now it's a shift in tone. Now I'll grieve the part of me that stepped into your menagerie. It's empty hearts who wear facade that I can't afford. Thus I can't afford to play charade. So I changed it a little bit for you there. Right?
Nice.
Right? So let me read the whole last sentence again. Now I'll grieve the part of me that stepped into your menagerie. It's empty hearts who wear facade. Thus I can't afford to play charade. So I put that on that last part on the last line separate, right? So that you can get that cadence for the end of the poem.
Yes. I like that. Yeah. Separating it like that really did make a lot of sense too.
Oh, yeah. Both the stanzas and the last line. Yeah?
Yes.
A last line in a poem is very important. Many who read, they don't read aloud. They don't quite get that, right? Because if you just read it, right, the last line, it's empty hearts who wear facade. Thus I can't afford to play charade. It doesn't have that dramatic ending. When you read it in that cadence, right, it's empty hearts who wear facade. Thus I can't afford to play charade. See, there's an ending to it. It ends the poem. It ties it up. It wraps it up together. Yes. I exaggerate a little bit there, but you really get that now. That profoundness, that significance is there, right? I can't afford to play charade because it's empty hearts who wear this emptiness. I can't afford it. Right. It's a crucial thing, but that's why I changed it to took out the because it was, but then to put thus, the thus connects it to, it's only empty hearts who can do this. I can't afford to be an empty heart. No one can, right? No one can. No one can.
No one.
No. This is most potent. Very wonderful poem. Beena, please, your comments.
I'm still thinking about what Sher was saying about that people are more into the hookups, not the real connection.
Yes.
I was just trying to understand that. Is it a recent thing or like, okay, it's been always there?
Always.
Yes, because when people were okay, now they are more open about it, I guess. But the need and the desire for that thing was always there, because not everyone was into this mindset. So they were doing it secretly. They were doing it like sneakingly and and all sort of things.
Correct.
But the
Correct.
were always there.
Well, depending on, we decided to interrupt you. Depending on the time and the civilization, sometimes it was more open, sometimes it's more inhibited.
Yes. So and the real connection and the deep connection. Okay. Of course. I can't talk much about it, not because that, okay, I don't know it, but it is something that, okay, there is a limitation of the vocabulary I have. I don't want to use certain words, but in this whole mindset, why this thing is happening, why it was always been there, as Sil always mentioned about the guilt part. Somehow we get this spirituality idea, which has so much as profoundness and amazingness in it, but also that, okay, it just put it in the contrast that, okay, if you are not a spiritual, then the other side is this, and which is bad. Again, the black and white mindset. It puts that, okay, oh, if a person has some certain desires and their need, then it's bad. That guilt actually provoke you subconsciously to do it more. I feel that. This is personally, I feel that. if we just accept that, okay, that we are human species and we are living beings and we have certain things and okay, certain needs and desires and wants and all that, then they lose their power. Those needs and desires cannot override you if you accept and acknowledge. First, awareness is the key. In at least in this case, I can say that it is very much curative, self-curative. First, okay, accept and acknowledge. The second thing is that okay, it is going to stay with me as long as I'm alive. First, again, acceptance that it is going to be there. How or in what level? Okay, this level doesn't mean that any hierarchy or anything. I'm just saying that okay, on what layer of consciousness and awareness I want to connect with some person. It has to be very clear from the very beginning. One of my friend, he used to be like, okay, I can say that, okay, he was my teenage friend, not childhood, but he said that, Beena, I was worried about like, okay, she did something to me and he did something. And he says that, Beena, your priorities are not set. You are giving 2 hours of time, of your precious time and energy to a 2-minute person. And I was like, wow. Okay. So the problem is that when we are doing something, when we are getting involved in any interaction, in any communication or relationship, we don't have a clarity of intent. Because we don't want to have that guilt that, okay, I also want to have some temporary relationship. The guilt also just push us to get into that thing. No, okay, yes, if you want to, right now, this is just a temporary thing. I want to, okay, yes, I want to connect with you. That's it. But you are a 2-minute person in my life. You're not going to be a 2-hour person or 2 day or maybe 2 year. It of course it depends on how we yes. So the clarity of intent is missing in many in every aspect of our life, and also that we don't want to acknowledge that because of this sometimes exaggerated spiritual ideas that has been imposed on humans by like, okay, oh, this is not spiritual, this is not good, this is not right, and all sort of nonsense. But the most hypocritic thing, of course, the thing is to not have a clarity of intent with our own self. I'm doing something.
If I don't repeat that last sentence. The most critical thing is
to not have a clarity of intent and with my own self. That okay,
right.
I'm doing something. My subconscious is just pushing me to do something, but I don't have a clarity, and I don't want to have a clarity.
Right. Yes.
Yes, and I sometimes we simply negate that. We simply ignore that and avoid. No, I don't want to acknowledge that. Right. This thing is like a different example could be, we say that okay, do some cheating. I actually advise someone to eat something where you feel that you have done some cheating. And she was asking me like, okay, why you are asking me to do this? And I said, please do this. And after a couple of weeks, she says, Beena, that was the most amazing thing that ever happened to me. Because that was the guilt. When we do it deliberately, we get out of that guilt. And getting out of guilt, every single time when we get out of guilt, we become more and more connected to our true self. Because guilt came up with so many, okay, yes, a lot of reasons involved there. But what I'm saying about this, you just actually like really sophisticatedly share your thoughts about the very dense topic, Sher. I must like really appreciate you for that. This is remarkable, because this could be a very very different thing, and I would not be even like reading that. Not because it would be bad. It is just because that I'm cautious of where I am exposing myself to, what kind of awareness, what kind of. So it is just a focus thing. People assume that, okay, I want to be a, like, okay, oh, very angel. No, it's not like that. It is just that I'm aware that, okay, where I want to put my energy and what type of energy I want in my life. So this is where I'm cautious of. But you just put it sophisticatedly, beautifully. And again, coming back to the clarity of intent, the criticalness of clarity of intent.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And when I was sharing before you came on with Sil that, okay, sometimes we get involved, like we do something. We did something in the past. At that time, that was not about the result and the consequence and implications or nothing else. It was just about, I want to exercise my right of freedom, my freedom of being. I want to practice that. And we become rebellious and we really take a stand, and then okay, yes, okay, I did. But later on, yes, the result could be okay, not so wonderful, because lack of awareness, lack of experience, and lack of knowledge, all sort of things. But we get trapped into that, oh yes, oh that was a disaster, so I cannot do this. But in the beginning, that was not the intent. The intent was to just exercise my freedom of being, just my right. And we forget about that. That's why that's why thinking it through to the end, and also the clarity of intent is so important. If we would have that clarity of intent from the beginning, then there would be no regrets, no guilt. No, I did that just because of that. I was trying to practice that. I was learning about myself. I was discovering myself. That's why now the consequences, implications, results, okay, yes, they were not right. Okay, no problem. What I got out of it, that was the most important thing, because I was learning about myself. So again, it's a huge topic, Sher. And you just said it so beautifully. Love this.
It's a real poem. It's a real poem. It's an excellent, excellent, wonderful poem. Beena, she said something very important, Sher, in the context of your work, your books. Right? Said, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, Beena, and I quoted it to you here, so please correct me to be a quote from you. Every time we release from guilt, and that's why it's square brackets, because that's the somebody else's comments, right? In the person, like in this case, mine here. Every time we release from guilt and shame, we connect more and more to our real self.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes. Yes.
This is a very profound insight. Very profound insight. Very profound. That's why I put it as a quote here. Beena, should I remove those square brackets?
You can do that, because you always just we have so many things mutual now, so that
that's important.
Well, also, I mean, I take it that it's implied when you say guilt and shame, you're just relating to guilt because of the story you told with your friend with guilt. But if you were to make your own quote, you would add shame there, right? So it's implied.
Yes,
it's implied. Okay.
Yes, this is important.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we can even put in there, etc. Yeah.
Yes. To
be precise.
It's very significant. It's a very significant insight. It's a very Norma. I hope you're still here, Norma. I'm keen to hear what you think of Sher's poem, and just all of the topic of our discussion here. I'm very keen. You made some comments, but maybe you dropped off or something. I don't see any more from you there. I just assumed you'd be leaving comments, but I don't see some. I'm keen, Norma. I'm very keen to hear. I'd like to hear
you got that? It's stuck in my head now about every time we learn. I mean, just learning about ourselves. Every time I release some guilt and shame, it's true. I do learn more.
Right.
But also bringing back home the point of clarity of intent.
Yes.
It was in my mind, but I wasn't naming it. And so if I were to ask myself what my intent is for writing this today, why it came to me, well, part of it is because, like I said, I'm working with two people anyways that are dealing with some situations. But then the rest of it is because this is for my book. It's for book 2. A big part of it. And 2 of my past relationships have been heavy on my mind, of course, because, I'm writing about the process of how am I releasing those relationships? Because even when I was going through the Way-of-Impeccability, working with you and Syl both, those relationships, I was still, even though I was not involved with them, like Syl said, I was connected to them deeply, heavily connected. And I had not realized that until, I don't know, just recently. It was like, I got to let those go. We have to let them go.
Absolutely.
I really don't want to drag them. I mean, they're getting kind of heavy.
Right. And to connect earlier to the start of this, right? We feel guilty. Like I said, those people who the book is for, they feel guilty and they don't release, they don't disconnect because they feel guilty about having made such a profound mistake.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
But in order to collect, like I said, Beena said to release from guilt.
Uh-huh.
Release, very specific word. Oh, well, and shame now. But that release means that you've come to understanding as a one term. With dashes, hyphens in there, right? Come to understanding. You've come to understanding about the situation. Part of that understanding was your guilt at your own foolishness, your own silliness. But you can't feel guilty about that, right? You have to.
It was also guilt over my goodness.
Precisely.
We talked about that last week, about how I don't want to hurt people. And so
exactly.
I apply inappropriate goodness and I hang on.
Exactly. But now, see, as you disconnect from that, you rounded out where I was heading, right? So you disconnecting from the guilt and you're saying, well, I was in this inappropriately, okay, for whatever reasons. But now, oh, what are my reasons? Oh, inappropriate application of goodness. Right there is the connecting to your real self. That was the end of Beena's thing. She didn't say connecting to yourself. She said your real self. Yeah?
Yes.
So as we release from guilt and shame, more and more, she said, direct more and more, we connect to our real self. Right?
Yes.
And I think, Beena, actually, now that I think of it, you said as we, or did you say every time?
I did. I thought I heard her say as, but
yeah, every time as we release. There we go. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. There was an as in there.
Yeah.
But it's a process, in other words, that Beena was communicating to say it doesn't happen. You release from guilt and now suddenly you find your real self. No. As you just now in this acknowledgement said about your inappropriate application of goodness, it didn't happen when you released from the guilt right away. It happened a little bit later as a consequence when you started to think, but okay, yes, I was foolish, I was ignorant. But it wasn't only that. Wait a second, there was more to it. I didn't want to hurt them. So I held on to the relationship because I didn't want to say, hey, you're a bad person, get out of my life. I didn't want to hurt them. Inappropriate application of goodness. What's the consequence of having inappropriate application? Oh, actually, I'm a good person.
Yeah.
For a long time, you never, ever, not even believed this, but even thought it was possible that you could think of yourself convincingly as a good person, correct?
That's true. That is very true. Yeah.
It took a path to get there, right? So that's why Beena also said more and more we connect to it. Because, of course, Beena knows that the real self is a moreness. When you connect to it, in that connecting and acknowledging, the more the real self grows. So then there's more to connect to. So it's a wonderful, magical thing, right? But there's a very big point there to make. Right, that when we release from guilt, we connect to the real self. That's why I wanted to write it as a quote and come back to it. Very profound, beautiful insight. Absolutely fantastically wonderful. And it's something to remember in your coaching. Yes. To emphasize this point the way we are doing now, to really do a dissection on it, to say it's a process and there's a moreness. And the only reason you connect is because by implication, you're actually thinking about things. Now, what was the other point that Beena made? Clarity. You have to know why you are doing what.
Yes? Yeah, exactly.
Right. So if you don't know why you are doing what, why are you unhooking from this? Why are you looking to be free? Why are you looking at the disconnecting from guilt? Just to feel better. But that's not all. Yeah. The real intent is to connect to your real self. When you start to say, oh, how do I get to my real self? Now this quote starts to make sense. Well, first start with unhooking from your guilt and your shame. Then you start to understand who you really are. Then you can start doing things that consolidate that, and putting things like impeccability, capacity, trust, and discernment and awareness. You can start putting those tools. And like Beena also mentioned, she mentioned very specifically in her whole share. She said about thinking things through to the end and perspective shifting to multiple perspectives. She emphasized those two. And the triangle, right, going with clarity of intent. You can almost say in Beena's share, that was a power triangle there, right, Beena? Clarity of intent, perspective shifting to multiple perspectives, and thinking things through to the end. When you do that, you're able to start from the guilt and the shame, and through perspective shifting, thinking through things to the end, you get to your real self. However, if you don't have clarity of intent that this is what you are trying to do, you may get a bit lost and muddled on the way. Am I paraphrasing what you were sharing correctly, Beena? Or accurately? Or sufficiently?
Exactly.
Okay.
And precise.
I'm doing a repeat back. I'm not actually paraphrasing. I'm doing a repeat back. This is just for those who don't know. What I do, I make it seem very kind of natural. I'm just sharing my perspectives, but it's really a repeat back, right? I'm taking what Beena said, and I'm making sure I understand it, I get it, and I'm putting it out there. And I'm asking Beena to check. This is very important because I don't trust my comprehension. Yes, I have really good comprehension skills, and I'm not just, I'm not. This is just a fact, right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that I have very good comprehension skills. I always check. Right? Because that's how you develop good comprehension skills, is by checking. You can't do it otherwise. Otherwise, how do you know what you comprehended is accurate? Unless you check, you'll never know. Right? So you can't do trial and error. You can't build up a database. So that was a very, very cool takeaway. And again, Beena's share was a takeaway, a repeat back and some takeaway also, and some sharing of what we've been discussing and Sher's poem, right? It all feeds on itself. So sometimes, like in this case, I was pretty much purely saying what Beena was saying. But Beena came and shared and did a repeat back and added more, right? This is the takeaway. Stuff came up on her and she shared, right? Takeaway isn't only what you take away for yourself, but sometimes you bring via takeaways that come up in you, right? So takeaway is kind of a very broad term. So Beena did both, right? Repeat back and takeaway combined. Yeah, all starting, being fed and stimulated. All right, there's a whole chain here going on, right? Everything falling into place, all connecting together. But this is the magic of attunement. See how it all works together. And then you come with this fabulous poem. Sure. I'm very critical with poetry. Yes. I mean, yes, you've written some other poems and they were nice and I like them. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's a real poem. This is a real poem. I do the same with my own poetry. I'm very, very harsh and critical when it comes to real poem, right? They reserve for a particular type of a poem.
Shy of it because it's one of those kind of ones that rhymes, but
but see,
for whatever reason, I always felt like, no, those are just kind of elementary, the ones that rhyme, but that's just me being kind of critical.
No, the rhyme is very essential here. I'm going to read your poem again because I really enjoy it and I enjoy reading it because it's a cool poem, right? So I changed here, by the way, if you can see on the screen share or not. I put names in inverted commas.
Okay, hold on. I get it. Well, no, because let me see. No, the screen is kind of like scooted over.
Okay, but anyway, so are they filling the void? Oh, I must put in the apostrophe there too. That's right, I forgot about it. Are they filling the void with names in inverted commas? Now it's hard to read it, but to voice it. But when you read it, you understand names is meaning more than just their physical names. Like names as in a big name, a fancy name, a shine, a glamour, right? The inverted commas around names. It conveys what you mean. All right. Now pay attention, somebody here, to say, right? I'm being a good editor. I'm not putting my personal opinion onto my editing. I am hearing what Sher means, and my skill as an editor allows me to enable Sher to express more clearly what she means. Yes, that's what. When I put the names around the inverted commas around names, I'm not changing a poem. I'm not adding. It's not now a joint poem. No, all that does it brings more clearly to the fore what Sher is intending to say. Correct, Sher?
Yes.
Don't check. Okay.
We have editors.
To me, I take my editing very seriously.
I know
that when I edit, I'm listening to the voice. I'm listening to what you intend. And then it's very easy to do the editing. I'm just making it a little bit more clear, right? That's why usually when I edit like this, it's easily accepted because there's no personalism. I'm not saying, oh, you should say that. No, nothing personal at all.
I have one thing I do want to make clear, and I guess I'm not sure how I'm going to present that when I post this eventually. Just because somebody does get involved with a narcissist or with a BMN does not make them a bad person. 99.999% of the times we are good people.
Yeah.
But we just have had circumstances where we've got these beliefs that do make us desperate. It's like, oh, we want to be loved, and oh, somebody's saying they love us, and all of a sudden it turns out not to be so. It doesn't make you a bad person at all.
Right. So you asked the question, and here's your answer. Okay. Now, this quote here, if this is your post, but replace this quote with a quote, take what you just said. And just because we got involved with the BMN doesn't make us a bad person. Put that make it a quote, put it into quotable form. It's pretty close already, right? And then add that at the bottom as a quote. Yeah?
Yes. I see what you're saying. Yes.
Right? Because if you write a bit about it in prose, and then it's like it detracts from the poem. But the quote at the end of the poem, now it's a different thing, right? It's separate from the poem, and then you've got this quote, but it's bringing a little bit moreness. Like, why is this? Oh, okay, right. It's just you touching on implications. And this was a big theme that I was saying in terms of the book. Yes, in that the way I've written the book is this. If you look at screen again now, there's the quote and then prose, and this is how it just goes. The whole format of the thing is like this, right? It's a very innovative and different way of writing. I find I like this because quotes tap into a different part of the brain than prose does and poetry does, right? So when a quote, especially good quotes, they have this moreness by way of implication, and a quote is typically self-sustained, right? It's like in this poem. In this quote of Venus, look how much we said to connect. It's a process. It's slow. You have to have this perspective shifting, thinking it through to the end, etc. Right? And you get there eventually, that real self, right? Not an immediate character. But we unpacked all of that because it's a good quote. Yes, it was this condensation of everything, which is why my ear caught it as a quote, and I pulled it out as a quote, right? So this is how to solve your issue there in your post. Post your poem, make a quote about this point that, simply being connected with the BMN doesn't make you one.
Right.
Whatever, however you want to say it, doesn't make
us bad people. You a bad person. None of that stuff. I mean, wow.
Exactly.
I carry it all. But,
Exactly. All right. I want to read your poem again. So I like the poem, and I want to comment on I want to read it and then comment on the necessity for the rhyme. Right?
Okay.
The rhyme does something to our brain in terms of its connectivity. Yes. Because it allows, or not allows, but it cues me to read the poem in a particular way. Yeah. So yes, okay, maybe you didn't notice it because I read it in that way right from the start, but I'll read it without that. Are they filling the void within with names adorned in beauty spin? No, that's.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. Yeah, that changes the meaning.
No, exactly. It's like, come on. No. Are they filling the void within with names adorned in beauty spin? See, you have a particular cadence that forces one to get into that moreness kind of. You extend the words a little bit, right? Because now you're connecting to. It's on the border of profoundness and sublimeness, but it's in the realm of poem. We can call it, right? It's a particular realm, and the particular cadence that is determined by your rhyme, the cadence and meter. Yes, that it creates a very particular way to read the poem, and I'm assuming I'm doing your poem justice because you haven't said it must be read differently.
You are. That's why I always like you reading my stuff.
Okay. I mean, it's a particular skill because it's capitalized hearing. I'm hearing the intent here. When we connect to intent, things become so clear and so easy. Really, it's a very magical thing to do. Yes, it takes a lot of training and skill, but it's worth every second. Right? So reading it in this profound way, it is also there's a query involved, right? In your cadence that's determined by the rhyme. There's an asking. There's a reaching up to the universe, right?
Yes.
And it's this profound self-awareness space, right? Really, what this does is I'm looking to put words in, but I feel real poems connect us to the ineffable.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
See, now when I read it in that way, when I read it like in the ordinary, boring way, like the computer voice might read it, doesn't connect us to the ineffable. But when I
No,
read
it
it the way
doesn't.
it's intended, you get that connectivity. And that's why I call it the ineffable, because it's very hard to describe. We're getting into a particular space, a mindset, a mood, a feel, a vibe that is got so much to it. It's ineffable is what cannot really be expressed, cannot be described. Yes. So that's what makes a real poem to me. It's my absolute quality. Why I say real poems compared to regular poems. It can be a regular good poem. Real poems that you could connect it to them. All right. So let's read this again. The Ferris wheel, and okay, that was my contribution, but not really mine, because Sher said she wanted a picture to go with the poem, and she posted a picture of a Ferris wheel. Yeah. So I'm just putting the two together, right? And when you got facade and you got Ferris wheel, it's like it has to be in your title, with this alliteration there, right? Ferris wheel of facade. And why is this appropriate? Why did Sher want this, even if she might not consciously have been aware of it? Why is the Ferris wheel connected? Because it's around and around. And with facade and image, you're either at the top looking down or you're at the bottom looking up, but you keep going round and around. It's a revolving thing, right? You don't get anywhere with this. It goes nowhere, right? Like a Ferris wheel goes nowhere. Right? I mean, it has its highs, but also has its lows, but it's revolving. So it's so perfect for this. It's fantastic, which is why you chose that picture. You didn't even realize how wonderful and perfect it was, yes, at the time.
I didn't.
Now
I was
you
just
know. Now
thinking
you know.
carnival.
but you knew it was right. You knew it was right. It's fantastic how we are in terms of our knowing with rightness, right? Now, my skill is just being able to articulate it, but it's there in us. We have this knowing. All right, let's try again. I'm trying to read your poem. You'll get distracted every time, but it's good. Good distraction. All right. The Ferris Wheel of Facade by Sher Unbound. Are they filling the void within, with names adorned in beauty's spin? Do you embrace them in nightly reverie, touching realms where I'd hoped we'd be? What significance do I bear in your game? And how many admirers do you amaze? Perhaps they nourish your self-esteem's glow, comments and likes, your spotlight's flow, seeking substance in visitors' void, merely to fill the emptiness deployed. Now I'll grieve the part of me that stepped into your menagerie. It's empty hearts who wear facade. Thus, I can't afford to play charade.
Wow.
Yes, wow, exactly. I put the comma there for the thus. Yes, there's definitely a pause there.
That's just it.
Yeah. I heard it in my own reading. You see, I heard that pause that I put in there automatically. Now, to get the full maximum out of a poem, pay attention to anybody who's into poetry. First thing, if you're going to read poetry, read it aloud. Secondly, read it multiple times, because each time I've read this so far now, I added a bit of a refinement and attunement into the poem. Yes. And I get that little extra nuance out of it, because you've got to get the cadence and think. For instance, when you know the poem, you'll see that the first couplet and the second couplet have a different cadence to it, like very slightly different. But you need to know it's there so that you can adjust for it when you're reading it.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is different, because it's like a change of pace a little bit, right? Right? The poem doesn't keep the same exact cadence, because it's making different points, right? And the first one is like query, and then the next one it gets a bit more personal, and it gets even more personal, right? And I thought, what significance do I bear in your gaze? And how many admirers? But I think the iron can go. Doesn't need to be there. It's redundant. Yeah.
Exactly. It is.
What significance do I bear in your gaze? How many admirers do you amaze? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. The and is superfluous. Superfluous and
absolutely it is.
Yeah. When writing, by the way, and particularly in poems, in writing in general, think of all your words as employees. Okay, they're just generally employed. In poems, they are like experts that you're employing. In other words, they're very expensive, right? So if you're going to put a word in there, make sure it is there and it's justifying its great expense to be there.
Yes.
In this case, the and, I'm paying you to be there, but really, are you doing anything? No, you're not. Sorry. Okay, bye. I don't need you.
Right.
Yeah. So every word must be worth the high price it is to be there. When you think that way, you change how you look at your poem, right?
Good point. Very good.
Just in my little writing course, one of the writing, very useful.
Which
just,
I still have yet to take, but
it's a good way to think of it. Exactly, very helpful, very helpful. What significance do I bear in your gaze? And again, see, when you read this, when the way the line is written, there's no comma, but I'm reading it as if there is a comma. Yes. Now, what you could do is put this on. You could do it this way, right? But it changes the poem's visual artistry. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
See, so but this is what I'm saying. When you read poems, be sure to read them multiple times and aloud, because at first you read, what significance do I bear in your gaze? How many? It doesn't quite rhyme. What significance do I bear in your gaze?
I'm still struggling with it.
Admirers do you amaze? You see, because now it changes the second line, right? When I put that little slight pause after bear, what significance do I bear in your gaze? How many admirers do you amaze? Because now admirers becomes the emphasis. You see, changes. You can read it either way. How many? But in the total poem, I felt that it's like a half comma. There should be a punctuation for a half comma, by the way. There isn't. Yeah, there's a punctuation for an extended comma of implication, which is the semicolon. Right?
Yes.
But it's not a half comma. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But again, any punctuation would throw that out there. So you just have to know that when you're reading, you can't go strictly by the punctuation. You have to add in some of your own, right? And it depends on the whole poem, right? I mean, if you read the two lines on their own, you can read, what significance do I bear in your gaze? But you see, I have to elongate bear in order to get the cadence right.
Yes.
Right? I mean, for me, in my accent, I wouldn't normally drag out the bear. That's Americans. They stretch the vowels, right? So I say bear, not bear. See? No different. Huh?
Yes.
Right? So, but in order to make it work, I have to read bear more American.
my original, okay, I'm just going to give you the changes that, what I sent you was a semi-edited version. How I originally wrote it was a bit different. I hope that I'm going to have to move because my clock is going to go off. I started it out with do instead of are they. Yeah. I put in do they fill the void within. Names adorned in beauty's spin. Yeah. Are they embraced nightly in reverie? Touching realms I hoped we'd be. What part do I play in your gaze? That's where I changed it, and that was a big change of it.
Yeah. What significance is profoundly different two parts. Hugely different. I mean, you were connecting into what I mean to say, and significance represents what you mean to say.
Yes. And then the rest of it was just taking out extra words. Perhaps they nourish self-esteem's glow. Let me see, what was the other one? Seeking substances. And that whole sentence about visage's void, I just wrote in seeking, I took out words, seeking substance in visage's void, merely feel emptiness, comma, deployed. That's why I said, I mean, I've been playing with it. And what I sent you was like real close to what I wanted my final one to be. So.
Nice. I mean, keep going on it. The poems can always be enhanced. At some point, you got to say, yes, I know it can be tweaked and enhanced, but enough's enough, right? But it's good to illustrate the part. I mean, right now, for me, the poem is quite magical. Yes, can it do a little bit of tweaking potentially, but also you got to be careful. Sometimes you make one tweak and it ends up changing the whole poem.
Exactly.
Yeah? Right.
Yeah.
So here's the key. Here's the key, though. Right. So what made this a real poem is that you knew that clarity of intent that Beena said. You were clear about what you're trying to express. That's why when you change, for instance, part to significance, it communicated to your intent, the moreness that you are trying to share through that one tiny word right? Significance, right?
Yes.
So again, all of this, it's all about implication. Every single line is filled with implication. This is poetry.
Absolutely, it is
poetry. And again, what I really wish to emphasize is we're seeing Sher become a real writer right here in front of our eyes. Why? Because Sher is writing what she fully intends, not what she thinks she's supposed to say. She's writing what she means. She's writing her depth of understanding. You're writing that nuanced depth of understanding. Yes, you put it into poem, but do the same thing in your prose. Don't just write a story of events and tales. Write the depth of understanding, what you mean in the fullness of all the layers of your understanding and awareness. For instance, this word void is very important, right? And spin is very important because that's it. And this beauty spin facade, right? Prettiness, all this nightly reverie, it's layered, right? Now, when you do this in prose, you this to write this poem out in prose might take a whole chapter or a book even.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? But I'm saying do this in your writing too. Make sure that in your prose that you take that this what you mean by nightly reverie and you lay it all out, right? You're spelling it all out, putting, but don't not put it in completeness. Don't skimp on laying it out in full. Yes?
Right.
And the other thing is I like to do quotes and prose like in that book, for nonfiction stuff. But you can also, instead of quotes, you can also use poems. Put the poem in italics.
Yes.
And then so take this and where you're going to write it out in prose. Don't do either or. Combine it. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's why
you can have the poem, write about the poem in general, then you can pull the line. In other words, do a capital R reading in your own prose of your own poem. Like our whole conversation here, like I said, this is a chapter. If you go and you write it out, right? All the section and breaking it off. It's fantastic. But
you're actually extremely intuitive because this is actually part of the chapter on my inappropriate goodness and breaking out of
exactly
that whole not liking myself because of there's too many becauses.
Well, because in the past you were stupid.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, you were foolish, you were greedy, you were, enamored with stuff, you were, whatever. You had inappropriate desires. Basically, you were foolish, stupid.
Yeah.
I said stupid because I'm deliberately being harsh here, right? And this is because for purposes of emphasis. But as you come to realize, no, yes, I was stupid, but that doesn't mean I wasn't good.
That's right.
You've always been profoundly good, even though you were also profoundly stupid. All of us were profoundly stupid when we were kids and babies. We knew nothing. So like, bloody hell, duh. So what, compared to the universe right now, we're going to look back one day when we're angels or whatever and say, oh my God, I was so profoundly stupid. I thought I knew everything and writing poems. We're still profoundly stupid, right? So when we acknowledge this, then we can connect it. So what if I'm profoundly stupid? I'm good.
Yeah.
That's the point, right? And that's why I said stupid, because I knew it's not going to bother you because you've overcome this where it's an issue. It was an issue in the past to be.
Oh, yeah.
You want to acknowledge that because you thought this was the reality of you. But the more you started dealing with your stuff, you said, no, that's not my reality. I'm not needing to make peace with the fact that I'm stupid. No, no. I need to make peace with the fact that I'm good. And you did.
Isn't that's just mind bending when I think about it?
Incredible. It is so incredibly profound. After the fact, it's like, seriously, that was all it took. I was so hung up on worried about that I'm stupid. So what if I'm stupid? Doesn't mean I can't be profound. It's a profound poem. From somebody who was profoundly stupid at one point. We all were profoundly stupid at one point, right? See,
yes.
Did any of that have anything to do with your goodness? No. Most of the nonsense and the trouble in your life, like Jessica too, it's not because of your lessness, but because of your moreness that the trouble came.
Yeah.
It's a very profound awareness. I said that one thing to Jessica. She's mentioned it many times. I'm not sharing something in confidence. She's posted about it many times. I said this one thing to her and it changed the whole life. Right in the very beginning, it was pretty much the first thing that I said to her. You know, she said the whole story, whatever was going on. And I said that. And it really struck home. And it's changed her life. And she keeps on remembering this. Very big awareness, right? She realized, oh my goodness, yes, he's right. Shit, you know, all this crap that I caused in my, and she's been in lots of crap, right? Same as you. Right? But a lot of it of her own doing, a little bit more deliberately so than yours, I think, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, she kind of actively went, not, you know, being complicit in things just going along and stuff. No, actively making trouble happen.
Yeah.
But again, out of her goodness, not knowing how to deal with the goodness, it's a magical thing.
Yeah.
If you want to see a TV series on this, very brutal, very, very harsh, a lot of violence in it, Deadwood, HBO TV series Deadwood.
I've seen it.
Right. But if you look at that and you look at those characters not knowing how to deal with their goodness, really struggling. I mean, it doesn't resolve it like you've resolved it. They just are unable to do that. But they find subtle ways to sabotage themselves.
Oh yeah, constantly.
Because of their goodness. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. I mean, I don't know if this was done deliberately or if it's just the intuition of the person understanding. This came out, you know, that they have an understanding and it comes out. But either way, when you watch that series as a series on not just inappropriate application, it's not about inappropriate application of goodness, it's about people being horrible, but about, but if you understand it, about people having difficulty acknowledging their goodness. They can't even acknowledge it because in that culture, that climate, that mini culture there, to acknowledge your goodness is a death sentence.
It is.
Right? Literally, it's a death sentence. You become a victim and that's the end of you. Right?
Yes, exactly.
So they have to find these subtle ways to, and they can't reconcile it, which is the series. They don't know how to reconcile it. It was a fantastic thing. But boy, is it insightful when you see this. You see really horrid behavior coming from people who don't know how to deal with the goodness, right? Again, they don't resolve it. Now, of course, you have accepted your goodness, and you're not in that stage, but that's extreme, obviously. Very powerful, very powerful. So,
the one film that I refer to most often is After the Rain.
The Samurai After the Rain. There's another one, right?
Yes.
So let's be clear. This is After the Rain, the samurai film made and directed by Akira Kurosawa, very famous, the same director of The Seven Samurai, right? That I recommended this movie. I recommend very few movies, but absolutely, this is again from the other side and learning how to. That person was so good, but they had too much modesty and humility to acknowledge their goodness, right? So it's coming at inappropriate application of goodness from an entirely different angle.
From an entirely different angle.
Beautiful, wonderful movie. Yes.
But there were so many.
Something.
That one just really stuck with me in it. Yeah. I watched it again. I mean, I don't know, probably like 3-4 times now.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, me too. I love that movie. Yeah.
It's an amazing film.
So to tweak this a little bit, that's not so much about inappropriate application of goodness, but about inappropriate reluctance to accept moreness.
Yes.
Let's tweak it a little bit, right?
Yes.
It's slightly different,
I would agree.
Right? It's the inappropriate reluctance to accept moreness.
To accept moreness.
Yeah.
I had a problem with that too.
Right. I mean, look at when he was in the duel with the Lord, right? This is about a samurai who's applying for a position as the martial arts instructor in feudal Japan, right?
Yes.
So and he has to audition for it, right? And typically, you know, the one of the samurai champions would come and, you know, a significant fighter, warrior, and you display your skills. But in this case, the Lord, who's a little full of himself, right? And he's also aware that he's a little full of himself, right? Which is fantastic. He's a great character. He takes on the samurai and challenges him. But the samurai is so skilled and he doesn't want to hurt the Lord, and the Lord is so ferocious and attacks him. He ends up in the fence, right? In the bush or something.
Yeah, he goes through the bushes.
Right, he ends up looking a bit foolish, but the samurai's skill is so vastly different that he ends up almost humiliating the Lord, and the Lord's annoyed at him because he apologizes. That's the thing that irritates the Lord, was the apology. Right? The Lord's
Was the
okay. Yeah, you're too
apology.
good for me. And, I was like rushing at you ferociously and you just stepped out and I thought you're going to be there and I lost my balance and I fell into the thing. It wasn't that he was at the disparity of skill levels. The apology is what really got him set off, right? And annoyed him. And then he sort of didn't, and then the samurai thinks, oh, it's not going to work. But then the Lord thinks about it and he thinks about it and he realizes that his beautiful, wonderful, fantastic wife was always the mourness, and typically she points out to him, well, you are a bit of a hothead, you got a bit of an ego. And he thinks about it. And the movie is the samurai and his wife, they're walking up the mountain and, well, they're like a bit sad, but they make peace with it. That it didn't work out this time. Some beautiful views from that mountain, really awesome.
Right.
But then all through it, this Lord and his retainers are chasing after them on those. It makes me emotional just thinking of this.
Yeah, they are. They're chasing after him because they want him back.
Exactly, because the Lord had come to realization, no, this guy is the right guy. And both of them had grown in their awareness because the samurai's wife points out the same thing to him. In his case, that, you need to accept your mourners a little more, right?
Yeah.
You have inappropriate humility and modesty.
Yes.
So just absolutely wonderful movie. Again, this is a movie that bears watching with a capital W watch. Right? Stop,
Please do.
discern it in the second.
I recommend it to anybody. And
it's wonderful.
I am not going to apologize. I followed. I don't know. We followed an anomaly, and this is where we are. And
exactly. And exactly. Beena, any more comments, Beena?
Yes. I was listening.
I love your sharing.
And also that, okay, what you were saying about anomalies, it is actually very anomalous, really. And so many things happening in my life. Okay, I'm still behind. I was keen to share on my timeline that, okay, I have been on vacation, Sher. And yes, and for like 20 days, I was not in Karachi. I was visiting. And that and so many things
second, Beena, one second.
Yes.
There's somebody joining us. Hi, Roy. Hello. I had to refresh to see the comments. So sorry, Roy, that I missed your comments. It's good to see you again. So Roy is here.
Hello, Roy.
Sorry, Norma, it doesn't always refresh here on the comments. So I'm going to read your comments again. All right. Anyway, please go back. We'll.
Yes.
Can you hold your point about the vacation? Okay, Karen, never mind. Karen. I want to read.
No, please continue.
Okay,
please continue.
Okay, because I know you can hold, but I don't want to lose the connectivity to what we were discussing with Norma's wonderful comment. Norma says, very courageous, Sher. And now Norma says, how important is the sharing in the recovery?
Oh my goodness. It's everything. It is everything.
We can say it is why Sher's name is Sher.
Sher. Yes.
I say Sher, but that's just me and my peculiarity, but it's Sher. Yeah. Right? Sher's name is Sher. I mean, really, I feel that this is the universe having given her this name. So your question is such an incredible, intuitively fantastic question, because it's not just in a regular space. This is important. It is so important that Sher's name is Sher.
But it's also the way she asked the question. How important is it to recovery?
Yes.
That's not a question that people normally ask. They usually say, well, why do I have to? That's different than saying, why is it important? I mean, how does it impact recovery? And I said it, well, it's very important, but why it's important, and I'll be super quick, is because, number one, people do need to know that they're not alone, because that is the one place. It is so, so, so deeply embarrassing when you get into a relationship with a BMN and you're trying to back out of it. You want to hide it. You don't want people to know that you made such a horrible mistake. It's the same thing as getting scammed. You don't want people to know. And it's embarrassing. But when somebody comes forward and says, you know what? I got you. I've been through this and I understand. And then they feel like they can start talking about it without sharing. If I had not shared my story with Sil, with Beena, with anybody, I would still be where I was or dead.
It's critical. It's not just important. It is critical. Absolutely critical, right? So again, too, when you share, you are confronting the fear of
Yes.
sharing, right?
Yes.
The fear of recognition, the fear in your mind. It's always bigger. Shadow thoughts, I call them, right? They are massive and huge. When you actually do it and you say, well, you know what, I got scammed. Can you say it, please? Can you say it, please, sir? A love scam?
I got love scammed. Absolutely,
right,
I did.
Now, when that happened, to say that, the idea of saying this in Sher's mind at the time, oh my God, this is horrible. But when she actually said it, oh, that wasn't such a big deal as I thought it would be.
Exactly.
Right?
Once you put
That's
it
the
out there,
importance
it's like,
of sharing. You realize that you have these empty fears, ideas which are empty fears, right? From the poem, The Me of Now and Then. Ideas that are empty fears. We have them. But when you express it, you realize, oh, really? Was that such a big deal? Did the world end? Do I feel terrible? No. Wow. That's really, yeah, I was scammed. Now you can get into it, you can discuss it, and you get into depths of it, and you can even laugh about it. Right?
Exactly. Talking about it is not ruminating. It's It's actually healing.
Right. And the sharing isn't talking about it, it's owning it.
Yes. Oh, big difference. Thank you for making
so
that.
Now we make the distinction why sharing is critical. Because when you just talk about it, that's one thing. But when you share it, truly share it,
you're owning it.
You owning it inside. When it's only in your head, when you don't express it outside, you haven't fully owned it yet. Right?
Which is taking accountability.
Precisely.
Taking accountability, because I'll tell you what, we don't fall victim. This irritates a lot of people, but it's the truth. There are always extenuating circumstances that bring us to that point where we become a victim and then later a survivor and thriver. We don't just get targeted unless it's war. I'm sorry, but we don't just get targeted. We have a part that we play in it. We have to own our part. And unless we do, and we do that through sharing, but unless we do own our stuff, it's not ever going to heal.
Correct. And likewise, when we learn things, we have to own it also.
Yes, we do.
You have to make it your own. You can't just say, oh, that's right, that makes sense. Yes, I agree with that. That's not enough. No, you have to make it your own, which is why you have to perspective shift it, put it in your own words. That's why the repeat backs and the takeaways are so essential, because it's a process of making it your own. Look at Beena's point. Even though it's a point I'm aware of, she expressed it in a very particularly nice way. And Sher's poem too. I re-express it because I want to own it. When I re-express it, I can make it my own. Right? It's very important. Otherwise, you just accumulate data. You don't accumulate change.
Yes.
You don't accumulate growth. All right. Next important question from Magical Norma, whom we love dearly. Right?
Yes.
That's very important. Okay. Beena?
Sorry, I have a phone call, so I will come.
Okay. I was wondering why Beena didn't say yes as well, because Beena feels the same. Anyway, so Norma says, wonderful Norma, had you healed before the poem, or did the poem heal you?
Oh, golly. I'm going to say both.
Yes.
Because both, meaning before I wrote it, was because I was contemplating and doing some reflecting on this chapter in the book that I'm working on. And then as I was writing it, and then honestly, listening to Sil and Beena today give me their takeaway on it and work it through with me, I learned something else really important about myself. So there was even more healing that occurred. There's always healing occurring. And that healing came, and the healing came in that I do have to, number one, remember that clarity of intent. And number two, when I release guilt and shame for anything,
more
I know more of myself. I know more of my real self.
Right.
So
now Sher had healed from her experiences in her life. I mean, Sher had tons of trauma, right? Sexually abusive father when she was a little tiny child, to abusive husbands, to you name it, right? She's been through the whole gamut. But I'm not trying to make a point of that. But my point is that Sher had lots of stuff to heal from, but we all do. And it's not about more or less. I may not have been in an abusive relationship, but that doesn't mean that we don't have stuff to heal from. It's all relative to the individual. You can never say somebody's trauma is more than anybody else's.
Right.
I can be as traumatized by somebody's, sexually abusing me, or somebody shooting their head off, or me shooting somebody's head off, like in war, or me stubbing my toe. The resultant trauma inside our minds is trauma. Trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter what caused it, right? So be aware that there's no degree to trauma. Anyway, the point I want to make is Sher has long since recovered from this trauma. She's been, just showing in your weight loss, right? This is physical evidence, right? I mean, Sher was severely overweight, right? And now she's not, right? So this is a huge shift that we started to talk about when Beena connected, because she hadn't seen Sher for a while. So, but recovering is not the same thing as making peace with your healing.
No, it's not.
Yes?
Recovery is an active, ongoing maintenance of your lifestyle.
Right. Then making peace with your healing is not the same as becoming a new person.
No.
Still not the same.
It's not.
I can recover and make peace that I've recovered, but it doesn't mean I have become a different person. Now, maybe you don't need to become a different person or don't want to, but that's typically part of the process. Like I said before, being aware that I'm in debt and getting out of debt doesn't mean that I've actually solved the problem of being able to make good money. Yes, I may solve the problem, like I recover from being in debt, which is, okay, I don't overspend, but I may still only have a little bit of income, and it's not enough to meet my needs. Yeah, that's why I overspent in the first place. So I've got to learn that. Now, in order to learn to make more money, I need to become a different person. So when you take this chain and you start to go along, right, and you talk about healing, we must be careful to not confuse growth, which comes as a consequence of healing, right? Like in this case, yes, I heal from the debt and all that. I don't overspend anymore, but now I'm growing in learning new ways of making income. That's a different thing to healing, but we call it healing a lot, right? So you recovered, and yes, you healed also, but now you are growing. And this is a whole different ballgame, right? So it all ties together. And the poem is part of your growth, not just your healing. Why? Because it's growth in that you are able to express this. Not just express it, but to elucidate in the full meaning of the word elucidate. I consider myself not a philosopher or a psychologist or a writer, but an elucidator. This is really my skill. I can elucidate. Now, go look up the word if you don't know what it means. Very cool word, right? It is to shine light from all sides. Elucidate. Not just to spotlight, right? Or spotlight. That's a different thing, right? But to elucidate light from all sides, right? So really getting to the full meaning of this, right? And then Norma says, beautifully said and understood, Beena. Yes, that's very cool. All right. Then Norma says, why guilt? And in terms of this, the quote, right? Because Beena only originally said it as guilt only. Why is, in other words, if I understand your question right, Norma said guilt and share. Anyway, not remember exactly, but anyway, why guilt? Why is guilt so crucial in this context of releasing from guilt and sharing about, in terms of connecting more and more to your real self? Why guilt particularly?
Why guilt in particular?
Yeah, in the context of recovery, why is releasing from guilt, well, and shame by implication, but guilt, why is it particularly so significant?
Because when I, just for example, when I hold guilt with about my kids, I just recently had a visit from my older son, and he came and we did a lot of healing. We left our guilt basically on the floor and our shame, and we had deep heart to heart. He's a grown man. He's in his 40s. And he wanted to come to me to give his apologies and ask for my forgiveness, and also open up the door for me to do the same for him. So it was reciprocal. Our relationship was covered with so much guilt that we could not talk before his visit.
There you go. There you go.
We hid our family secrets, and hiding is going to continue, that it's going to perpetuate all that generational trauma, all that garbage, all that crap. We're going to walk around people that are inauthentic, and he couldn't do that anymore, and I couldn't do it. And he missed his mom, and, you know, and we just needed to heal. So that's what releasing that guilt does, is you put yourself back together, and you get back in touch with your spirit, and you reconnect your mind and body.
Exactly. Now, I feel there's another poem lurking inside Sher.
There is.
About the barrier of guilt, the cocoon that guilt creates, the obstruction, the spikes that it puts around you, right?
Yeah.
Don't touch me. So guilt is not only a barrier, but it's an active, you know, like a porcupine spikes, don't come near me, right? It's a prevention. Guilt mutes you, takes away your voice. Yes?
Yes, and when you do that, then of course you're going to lose your relationships with.
You cannot connect, because guilt is
with anybody.
It's so cocooning. It's so isolating. It's so disconnecting. Yeah. So I feel write a poem about it, please, in the same way. Write about your understanding of why guilt specifically is so important to disconnect from, or maybe guilt and shame, because they're very closely connected. If you write a poem that elucidates your understanding of why guilt particularly and shame are so important to connect and disconnect from, and to overcome and to move away from, and the transformativeness of when you can release, not let go, release from guilt, said Beena.
Yes.
Very powerful. So yeah, a wonderful question, Norma.
She has some amazing questions.
Norma's awesome with the questions. Absolutely, I love it. And Roy says, hello everybody. Hello Roy. Really glad you're here, mate. I'm keen to hear your thoughts, your opinions. Norma says she wrote lots of comments. Yeah, Norma, it used to be, you know, Facebook would automatically update these comments, and now not anymore. So I don't know why. And Roy, we've been discussing a poem written by Sher, a very good poem. I'll read it again because it's an excellent poem and it bears rereading. So before I do that, let me just refresh to see if there are any more comments. It's such a pity that they don't dynamically, because every time I have to refresh, it brings me back in the previous thing, and then I have to click to go into it, and then I have to mute it, and it just takes time. It's a nuisance. So, all right. Where are we? Beena, any more comments before I reread the poem? Oh, so Norma says, thank you, Sher. This is right now, right? Norma says,
Norma.
Norma says, I don't feel guilty, just shame that I didn't fight back.
I resonate with that.
Oh, Norma, I can't tell you how much that touches my heart.
Yeah.
Because I
know what you're saying.
I know exactly what you mean. That's why it touches my heart very deep. It's a very profound thing. All right. So Norma, talk to Sher. Sher will talk to you. Message her. Talk to her about this. Talk to me about it if you want to as well. But you know, sometimes it's easier to talk to others. So again,
Norma,
share more on this.
I can say this to Norma to help you realize too that you're not alone in this moment with that thought, which is I carried shame for probably well until after I was working with Sil for not protecting my children.
Right. And same measure of shame of when you were a child and the people you got involved with. Actually, when I met you, guilt was the secondary focus. Shame was the primary.
Shame was my biggest
that was the
weight.
thing that we were connecting to. And if you read, if you look at earlier, we did some lives and stuff, you'll see how shame was predominant before guilt. And guilt has come a bit later in it here now. I mean, guilt, Beena brought up guilt, but certainly when I first met Sher, that's what we were dealing with, shame. Now, did we deal directly with it? No. We dealt with it via way of impeccability. Instead of dealing with shame and guilt, we said, what do you need to first have in order to be able to do this? You need to have some measure of feeling good about yourself. Yes, and having the tools. If you don't have some measure of feeling self-worth and realizing this, you're not going to be able to deal with this issue. And how does way of impeccability start? You remember those very first slides about those questions that you asked?
It all begins with awareness.
Right, exactly. But I mean, the questions that you asked, please say out loud. Remember?
The
I'll
questions
show it.
that okay, I was gonna say
You'll know what I mean when I share it now. I ask, and then it's hard to remember specifically the vague question. Hey, come on here, get back to this. Here we go. I'll show you in a minute here. I'll pull it up in a moment. Very important. So Norma, this is really, really crucial. Yes, in this to understand how it is Sher's journey, at least coming to Way of Impeccability, that she didn't come as a therapy client, right?
no.
No, no. Didn't come as a therapy client. You came to do Way of Impeccability, even though we had connected as a result of trauma. Right?
Oh, as a
Because you were
result of my
involved with the
question.
trauma.
Yeah, I wanted to be a coach.
Right. But also at that time you were involved with the BMN and the program that they were doing, and it had broken down. And I shared some, and you wanted more, and you connected to me. Yes, Beena, did you say something? Oh, thought I heard Beena there for a second. So we didn't come at this, even though there was a ton of baggage and trauma still from before. Yes, it hadn't really fully healed yet. I didn't start on dealing with things from a therapeutic way of being. I don't. I can give a long hole, and we'll be here for another couple of hours. All right, on why I'm not a fan of therapy. It's counterproductive. It goes backwards. The more it's about understanding emphasis. If you get involved in the problem, you're emphasizing the problem, and emphasis rewires the brain. So, of course, if you go week in, week out, and you're talking about your problems, your brain, after a while, only thinks in terms of problem. It's terrible. So you're making it worse. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot deal with your issues, but first you need to have some emphasized moreness in your brain of a change in who you are before you can actually start to deal with those problems. You have to have a solid base to work from so that you don't get lost in emotion. So that when you come to the guilt and the shame, you have enough strength of being and a powerful self-conception that you can deal with it unemotionally. And like, okay, yes, this was the issue. And that, like we've been talking now, right? When I say things, and I was deliberately, I don't normally say, oh, Joe, well, you were stupid back then. Sounds very harsh, but I was deliberately saying it because you can see when I say it how it has no effect on Sher.
No, I laughed.
Normally, exactly. Normally, I wouldn't say it so bluntly and so harshly. I was doing it very deliberately and very particularly, so you can see that when I say this a little bit inappropriately, how it doesn't bother Sher. This is a great accomplishment, right? That Sher has accomplished. This is an awesome thing. It's fantastic, All right. So Way of Impeccability, yes, it's about clarity of intent, right? Okay, there's the curriculum, and just I'll go over that. I'll go over that curriculum in a moment as well. But it's about clarity of intent and focus of birth. Okay, so now, Beena, are you here? Or are you still on your call? All right, I'm guessing Beena's still on the call. But this is where we start, right? So when you come, you start Way of Impeccability. I say, which of these resonate or apply to you? Say yes out loud. Are you ready, Sher?
Okay.
Yeah. You are a good person.
Yes, now. Then it was no.
Yes. Well, you kind of said yes, if I remember. You didn't say specifically no. You actually said yes. You have integrity.
Okay, how do you want me to answer it? As then or now?
Now it's fine. Yeah. Then you might have said yes, right? But okay. Right. You have integrity. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. You care about others?
Deeply.
Yes. You have generosity, kindness, compassion?
Definitely, yes.
Yes. Norma, are you saying yes to these as well? Roy, are you saying yes to these as well? Right? Say, this is for all of us. I know Beena's on the phone, but she'll say yes too. Right? Doesn't matter how you say yes. Doesn't matter how little you think you are a good person. If you are a good person, it's a yes, right? Whether it's a lot or little, doesn't matter, right? So say yes to all of these. And you'll see now why that yes is important. You are typically sensible. All right, so now answer for the rest. Answer the way you might have answered back then. Yeah.
Okay.
You are typically sensible?
Nope.
Okay. All Right. But at the time, I don't remember you saying no to any of these, by the way, Sher. You said yes.
But you know
to all of
what?
them.
But, and here's why.
Yeah.
Because I did not want anybody. Oh, that was a heck of a mask. That was in itself.
Yeah.
I did not want anybody to attach that stigma to me that, oh my gosh, she's a wreck, she's a hot mess. And so I would go along with what everybody else said.
But you weren't lying when you answered the yes. Okay, it may not have been typically.
Felt like it.
Yeah, right.
I felt like a total fraud.
Right, exactly. Now, what you felt and what you said to different things, right? So when I said you think patience, impeccability, sobriety, diligence, awareness, appropriateness, etc., are good qualities, you said yes.
Yes.
Did you apply them? Not necessarily, but you thought they were good qualities, right?
Yes.
You like having meaning, purpose, and significance.
Yes.
Yes. Back then, absolutely yes. Affection, love, goodness are important to you.
Yes.
Yes. I've got to assume that this is a yes for Norma and for Roy as well, right? I know these are yeses for Beena. You cannot be deliberately inappropriate. This is where you got a bit stuck. And
right.
Sorry, you cannot be deliberately bad and you cannot be deliberately inappropriate. Right. If I remember correctly, I don't know if it's just you, but typically most participants get a bit, well, if I really wanted to be, I could be. And you were quite honest. You said, well, actually, if I remember correctly, sure, right, I may be confusing with somebody else, but if I remember correctly, you said to me, no, if I really wanted to be, I could be. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. And you cannot be deliberately inappropriate. Say, well, I don't know, I think you mentioned about burning the house down.
I wanted to.
Right. At this point, the house burning incident came. Not that you burnt it down, but that. Right. So I think you brought it up then, right? And then you want more in life, and yes, you want more in life. You said back then, you said yes. Then exactly, and then back then you said, oh yeah. All right. So the point of this slide is a very important. Now, likely you said to all of these almost, and that makes you a good person without question. We are going to connect to that goodness. We're going to connect that goodness to what is meaningful, provide you with purpose, and what is significant and important to you. Yes? Now, all right, then we go into this. I am a good person, but we'll save that for another time. So the point here is that way of impeccability starts with the understanding that you are already good. Yeah, you may have inappropriate application of goodness. You may not realize you're good. You may not know how to be good. You may not have the skills to fully implement your goodness. But it's starting from the point of view that you're good. Not like most therapy or life coaching, that you are broken and need to be fixed. Hell no.
Right.
Hell no. And I really emphasize this. I make this a very big and important point. Yes.
And it took me a long time to get to that point. And I wrote it in my book. It's burned into my memory. But it took me a long, long time to get to that point where you had that statement on there where it says, say, I am a good person. And I would not say that.
A good person.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would not say it. Correct. I just wouldn't. Correct. Not until that moment when, and I remember I started to cry and just that laugh right there. You're like, oh, you start to laugh and you're like, you like yourself. And I'm like,
yes.
I'm getting there. Yep. I really like myself. And that was an important turning point because here's why I said that. It's okay to have the awareness that you are a good person, but you got to take it a step further. And that step further is to actually embed it and embody it and just realize that you can accept that you are. You can accept your goodness. It can be kind of scary and overwhelming. But when you do, then you realize that, oh, wow, okay, so it's not my fault. I didn't cause all this. It's circumstance.
It's huge. It's huge. So just to go through this curriculum here real quick, since it's appropriate, right? In terms of, like I have somebody approaching me who has got a bit of a crisis, a trauma, right, going on. And I said, come and discuss. Now, they might have an expectation of therapy, but I don't do therapy. Why? As I said before, it's because it's inappropriate emphasis. And
Yes.
again, if you don't supply the individual with tools with which they can build their new house, right? The problem is you had a shaky house with a leaky roof and a poor foundation. Yes, okay, I may fix your leaky roof for you, but what do I do about the poor foundation? Anything
Yeah.
about houses, and if Ryan was here, he works with foundations specifically.
Right.
It's a major, major undertaking to fix a foundation. Right? Or usually when there's a problem with the foundation, a serious problem, and they actually demolish the house and they take out the foundation and they start all over again. Seriously, this is in construction, right? It's one of the most difficult things to fix is a foundation, right? So, and the same thing
Yes.
with the person. To fix a leaky roof, that's no problem. Or other problems on the surface, but the foundation, no. Typically, you have to
That's it.
replace it entirely, right? So,
Yes.
when actually, if you truly want to solve a problem and not just do a band-aid, yeah, it's like if you truly want to, the only way to truly defeat an enemy is to make them your friend.
Yeah.
That's the only way. So the only way to truly deal with your problems is to become a new person that is got their stuff together, right? So that's why we
Right.
go here, clarity of intent. And okay, this specific practice, I tell you what, how it all makes sense, it gives you a bigger picture. Now we're going to details. For takeaway, philosophy of takeaway, repeat back takeaways. But this actually comes before this in the pre-course, but the moment of now, understanding this, that you've got to live now. You can't be connected to the past and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Strategic ways of being, exemplification of being, dictionary of power, life detective and trust. In fact, these are all tools. These are not beliefs. There's nothing about this. To be a life detective is a tool. Understanding what it means, how to use it, it's a tool. It's a very powerful tool, right? You don't have to believe me. Go and test it
Yeah.
for yourself, right? Go and practice, put it apply. Right? Testing ourselves and what we know. Critical. Making what's learned our own so it can be real. See? Critical there. Very critical. Again, a tool of awareness, a tool of understanding.
Yes.
And then to go through more critical self and essential self positive. Where was self-conception? Where was
I
self-conception?
really like
Ah,
I like the reorganization on this. So the course
oh,
content makes more sense.
interesting. It was always there. I'm just emphasizing it now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. All right.
yeah. So module 3, I was just reading the sessions, but the whole module is self-conception and dictionary of power, because you
Okay.
use the dictionary of power to build your
Right.
self-conception, right?
Exactly.
That self-conception, that's why it's module 3. These things are stuff you need in order to do this, and you need this in order to do that. So it kind of builds a little bit, right? But the
Right.
self-conception is super critical. The change in the self-conception, absolutely essentially critical, absolutely essential. And then emphasis on self-talk. I'll just go through habits and mood management, awareness and making sense, and then of course attunement, alignment, and anomaly, which is what we're busy now. The epitome,
Right.
the end of, and then from here we jump into the Moreness-Project, right? If you want to continue, which is like the in-depth program on capital H hearing, the in-depth program on the psychology of the superiority paradigm. And it's very useful and necessary to understand, because otherwise you can be a bit vulnerable. You can have all
Yes.
your goodness there, but if you don't understand that they're horrid people and they can do horrid things, well, you're just vulnerable, right? So
You could be a
it's
target.
important to be aware of. And then, of course, we get to the where you want to go all the way, and you say, okay, we get into nobleness and nobility, and really, the intent of the Moreness-Project is for exquisiteness of being. Very elusive, very difficult point. Yes,
It
exquisiteness
is.
of being. Now, again, this is not something that I'm saying you should want anybody. No, it's only this is your particular bent in life, right? You have this predilection for this, you have this desire, this penchant for it, if you want to use all of the terms there. But
Yes.
it's not something that you have to do, need to do, must do, should do, supposed to do. No, no, this is what you want. A way of impeccability, I feel, is a need, right? Norma says, by the way, just a little bit more. She said, where'd that comment go? Uh, I saw your comment where you said in your day, Norma said in her day, you had to 3 years before you could leave legally in a
Before you could what?
marriage. Before you could leave a marriage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Norma just said it was in my day. It was 3 years before you could leave. I'm just adding the marriage thing.
I'll
I
be
know what she
darned.
means. Yeah, and Norma said she spent many stays in the YMCA. Yes, I know. People suffer unnecessarily. But when you look back at it, in terms of, you say, if you look at it in the context of what can I learn from this? It wasn't nice, it was horrible, but at least let me get some good out of it. Let me extract some good out of it. It changes.
Yeah.
Right? Like your cockroach story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to develop that. And then as
Yes,
we get
we
more
do.
and more into it, we see the bigger picture. We say, oh my
Yes.
goodness, this was necessary to break me, right? To break me from a soul pattern. Right.
Yes.
Now think of this.
Yes.
Think of this. If your soul has developed a pattern, a belief, a restriction that confines it into a particular belief system, a particular perception system, right? Now it ends up in a reality where, and this perception system, this belief system, is not a particularly good one. And the example I use here is women buying into the myth of misogyny, not misandry, but misogyny. In other words,
Yes.
women buying into this myth that men are superior and women are inferior. Right? I know
Yes.
many women. I grew up in a culture where the majority of women bought into this myth. Yes, it's detrimental to them. You say, but why would they think they? A lot of reasons why. Right? Now, if your soul believes this because this has been pressed into your DNA from when you were a child, right, through the ages, right? Every time you were you lived as a female, this was taught to you, this was pushed into you, this was programmed into you. Eventually it sticks and you believe it, right? But think of the detriments of that. The detriments of that is that life after life after life. Now, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, doesn't matter, but I'm using it for purposes of the illustration here, right? So now you're stuck in a loop where your soul is coming into realities where it's experiencing the same stuff. You believe in this misogyny and hierarchy and abuse of women. You believe it as a woman. Of course, that's what you experience, right? How do you get out of this? Your soul says, oh, man, we've been doing this how many times now? Holy moly, right? We've got to do something drastic to get out of this. Well, you end up in an abusive relationship. It breaks that looping pattern, right? Because it's so terrible, it's so horrible that you're forced to rethink this particular belief. It forces you to realize, no, sorry, men are not superior or better. They can be very crappy and horrible and terrible. And of course, because you're a good person, you don't give up in love. You don't say all men, right?
Right, right.
So again, look at the genius of this, of yourself doing something to yourself, right? In the bigger picture, we don't want to say we chose this, it was necessary. No, but it really is in the bigger picture. It has to be. If you don't want to continue looping for the next zillion years in the same pattern. Yes, that's a horrible thing. When you think of this in the context of longer term, man, what a horrible thing. So fine. Yes, I have one lifetime where I have some suffering in it. But man, is this a price I'm willing to pay in the context of eternity? Absolutely. Every time, right? Now, of course, that's why we don't remember the previous lives, because we can't remember this choice of doing this deliberately, because then we wouldn't do it. Yeah? We can't deliberately do things that are really horrible to us. That's almost impossible, right? The body has its own agenda and it doesn't allow us to do that. So we can't come into it with awareness. We have to be ignorant. But that's how life, to me, that's how things work. Now, whether you believe me or not, doesn't matter. It is a way of thinking about it that makes sense, that helps us deal with it, that says there is some sense what otherwise and heretofore made no sense whatsoever. Yeah. So it's a very healing, very helpful thing, whether you believe me or not, doesn't matter. You can say, well, maybe that was so. And even that maybe, that little tiny acknowledgement that maybe there was some more to it, that changes your connection to it, right? In your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's very, very powerful, right? Very, very powerful. Roy, are you still with us? Oh, give Roy a few seconds there. Beena, are you still on your call or are you back?
Hope she didn't drop.
Well, she's still on the call. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, YWCA. Yeah, you did say YWCA, Young Women's.
Yeah,
Christian
Young Women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think maybe Young Women's Charity Association, maybe, but originally it was Christian.
We used to have to go to the Y because they didn't have shelters, and then in the 70s, edging in towards the 80s, they started opening up women's shelters, but they were not accepting children.
Right.
And then they got to the point where you could actually have your kids stay with you. So
I actually think it may nowadays stand for Young Women's Community Association.
Does it?
I don't know. I'm just saying it might. I mean, originally it stood for Christian.
See, did they drop that?
No, I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm just speculating.
Yeah. Somebody can look it up on Google.
Yeah. I mean, let me put it this way. If it hasn't, I wouldn't be surprised if it does in the future change.
Yeah.
Just in terms of appropriateness and people being less connected to the religious side of things, because in the beginning, some people were a bit anti-YMCA and YWCA because of the religious connection. I remember that as a kid. People were a bit anti it. Well, and that was in a very religious society, by the way, because they were a bit progressive in their religion relative to the conservative religion that I look at it. Although most people today would regard them as conservative relative to the general, at least in America. Anyway. Interesting how times change, right? Very profound. Sure, this was fantastic appropriateness, right? So yes, I was intending to read the story, but hey, we'll do that next week, right? Lots of appropriateness. So this week, right? So by the way, this week, even though we haven't finished the story, and then normally we continue that next week, the second half of the. But what we'll do this week, since we don't have capital or reading to do, because there's typically Sunday I read and then we do the capital reading. What we'll do this week is read other stuff, like other readings from poem. Maybe Ramsey will come. He's written a new book. We'll read from his book and do capital readings.
I was really excited about his. I'm looking forward to. I have to figure out where to get it.
Yeah. He hasn't had time yet to come, but he will. So this will be very cool, and maybe we can read some of Norma's poems, Norma's writing, and just have general open discussions, anything that's relevant, anything that's pertinent. So we've got a free week, so it's very cool.
Sometimes it's necessary, I think, just to kind of clear the table, because we all get stuff on our end tables.
Exactly. And also, I'm sort of thinking maybe I won't finish the reading of the book and leave it open. There's a bit of mystery, because where we at in the last chapter is them unpacking the great mystery that this anomaly that's presented, and it's a mystery that's for the entire series. It's a really very powerful mystery. What happened to old Earth? And maybe I'll leave it, and then you can go and read. And well, it doesn't get answered in this book, but in
I like that idea, though. Think on that. The other one that I saw that's happening, though, is we touched briefly on the word connection. I feel as though, remember I talked to you last week about, just kind of being homesick. This is my home, my you guys, my family. So
I mean, that's the thing too. But what Sher was saying, he said she was a bit homesick for the Way-of-Impeccability family. And on the live, see, like Norma, you're part of this family indirectly.
Yes, she is.
You do Way-of-Impeccability, even though you don't do it together, we discuss and share. And times like this, we get together, and and in previous times we got together with more of us. Like Donna just messaged me earlier too. I'm just saying, hello, hi, are you? But that's
so I said we're all circling.
It's a big deal. It's a family. It really is a family, because you are connecting from moreness. And here's the key. Yes. Because what is so crucial in doing any of these programs is self-honesty. It is a requirement. If you cannot be self-honest, forget about it. If you want to change, you want to get rid of your problem, you got to be self-honest. And if you can't be self-honest, you can't. Now, that plateau of honesty, that sphere of honesty, that place of honesty, it's a place where we live in now, but you can't give it up, right? So anybody who joins and is also in this place of honesty becomes part of a community, right? Because you're sharing in a different way, sharing on a different level, right? We can be honest. There's no pretense. There's no competition. There's none of that. I accept who you are. You accept who I am, right? I mean, this is it. It's very simple, I mean, I don't want to say, I know a little bit about sewing, but man, compared to Sher, the hell do I know? Yeah, I mean, I know what a bobbin is, but that doesn't mean I can really use a sewing machine. No, right? See what I'm saying? And likewise, so when we are honest, we just simply acknowledge. And never am I comparing or defending, because don't know. So what? Yeah. So the place of honesty is a magical place for relationships. Right? Because you just simply acknowledge who it is. And then if somebody knows more than me about something, I'm thrilled that they know more than me because I learn from them. And if they don't, if I know more, well, and I'm thrilled to share with them. Either way, I'm thrilled. Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Very, very cool stuff. So our community here is a very powerful community. That's why we call it the Bit family. Now, I'm cautious of family because it's some kind of a cult.
No, I know.
To do with that. Because cults are hierarchical, they're dominant. And cults are really where the virus and the cancer of belief is taken to the extreme. Yeah? In cults, it's all about you have to believe, you have to believe, you have to believe. This is the very opposite of a cult because it's really part of this is that you do not have to believe. Please don't believe. As a matter of fact, if you start disbelieving what I'm saying, I'm going to say, hey, you say, yeah. Based on what? I'm going to ask you, based on what? You're going to have to say. Then, well, you said it. Well, that's not good enough. I may be wrong. I may be saying a complete load of rubbish here. Right? Maybe I'm saying rubbish just to test you.
Don't believe anything I say. Figure it out for yourself.
I know. I've said that many times. Please do not believe anything I say. Yeah. Make sure it makes sense to you. Because belief is hollow. It doesn't take us anywhere. There's another poem there. Belief. Hollow
There is. There's stories and poems for everything in here. But it's true. It is a community, but it's also family. And it's just I've never heard it I guess be pushed or forced whether or not we say family, but I feel comfortable with it. So that's why I realized the other day when I was struggling with a few things, I'm like, I need to go home.
It's capital F family, which is the capital F is also for free. Yes, most family, little f family is not free. This family is free family. It's why it's capital F family. And when you have a free family, it's there because you've chosen this family. I mean, some people come, they do Way-of-Impeccability, and they go back, and it's profound, and it's really life-changing. I was commenting on this earlier with Beena also, that their lives have changed profoundly, right? And I don't see them very often, or I mean, I could, but they're busy with their lives. And somebody from the outside said, well, but they're doing the same thing as they did before Way-of-Impeccability. What made a difference? The difference is internal. Before, they were anxious, they were stressed, they were insecure, they were doubting, fearful. They felt guilty because, well, they were doing things and they were a bit hollow in it, and there was a lot of facade. As
they weren't hearing.
Right. And they weren't hearing stuff, and they weren't connecting, but they felt a bit phony. They felt a bit hollow, and a lot of anxiety and guilt and shame and all this stuff. Now they don't have that. They're doing the same thing, but they're doing it without all the baggage and the trauma, right? And they're doing it deliberately. When you do things deliberately and you know what you're doing, you're not just kind of halfway know and you well, the rest, I have to put out there that I know, otherwise I'll get no clients, etc. All this stuff, right? Now you really do, and now you don't have any guilt or shame, right? For argument's sake, just in case it was something like that. Now, of course, it's different for everybody, but I'm just using it as a example. So there's the internal change, right? It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. Just because our lives externally don't necessarily change doesn't mean we don't change internally. We can profoundly change. And so in this case, some people carry on with their lives. They come, they do it, and that's it. All I needed. Thank you very much. Bye. Right? Others join the family. Or at least they're all part of the family, but are here more consistently. It varies. It depends on the individual. It depends on the time as well. It depends on what they're involved with, right? Sometimes I'll see people and on a consistent basis, they'll be connecting regularly. And then there'll be long periods of time when I don't hear from them. It makes a difference.
Right. I've even done that.
Right. Once you're in my heart and once I'm in your heart, it doesn't matter how long we don't see each other. Disconnect again, right? Once you're part of this capital F family, right? It's a big deal.
That's right.
And that's also different to when we have relationships of moreness. They vary tremendously, relationships, right? Sometimes there's relationships that are moreness based on learning and growing. Other times the moreness is based on affection, yes, and intimacy, all sorts of relationships. So we have to understand that, right? So, but that doesn't mean that we can't still be part of the bigger family.
That's true.
But this connectivity, because we have this sharedness of that place of honesty, and also that we are understanding about the past and how we were nincompoops. And it's a very important part of Way-of-Impeccability, acknowledging that. But also how we've claimed our moreness, we've claimed our real self, and we're starting to connect to our real self, because the tools are made for that purpose. All the tools in Way-of-Impeccability are tools to assist you in connecting to your real self. The tools of awareness, discernment, understanding, and particularly the tools of application. Because to release from guilt, you have to be doing stuff. You can't just think that I want to release from guilt.
Yep.
Yeah. And that sharing, your question was so profound, Norma.
Oh, it was. It was an enormous question, Norma.
Sharing about your guilt and shame is a doing. It is an application that allows you to unhook. And you can understand that you need to unhook, but unless you actually do something, and that sharing is a doing. There's not really any other doing, or not too many of them that one can do. It's a very profound doing. So all of it all works together, right? Everything is really magical and profound. So again, we touch and go and connect as appropriate. We have lives. Just because we are family doesn't mean that we do the same things and we're always 24, like you and your family. Sometimes some families, they see each other regularly, others never. Now, that doesn't mean that the ones that see each other regularly are particularly close and tight. No, they fight like cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the family that sees each other once a year can be very close and very tight, but they have their own individuality. So being part of the Way-of-Impeccability family doesn't mean you're a conformist and you've got, no, hell no, it's the very opposite. The more individual you are, the more part of the family.
And it's insisted upon that you make it your own.
Exactly. So precisely. So how can you not be an individual? The whole point of Way-of-Impeccability is getting you to be your own individual according to what is important to you. I cannot tell you what's important to you. No one can. Impossible.
That's right.
But to connect to what's important to you, that's not as easy as it sounds, right? It requires a lot of tools, a lot of baggage, a lot of beliefs, a lot of habits all to undo. Part of Way-of-Impeccability is particularly focused on habits. It comes right in the beginning. Getting habits as our big enemy. So all of this all works together. It's a moreness, and it really works. Anyway, I don't mean to be advertising Way-of-Impeccability. It's a script.
What do you mean you don't mean to? You need to.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm just proud of Way-of-Impeccability. Not because it's something I've created, but I like to share about it because it really, really, really makes a difference. How can you not be excited about something that actually really works?
Works and is a deliberate way of living.
Precisely. That's the change. That's the change. When you start to look around you, right? Sure, you started living deliberately for a while now. But when you look around you and you realize, oh my God, I see people not living deliberately, it's kind of like, it's a bit stressful in a way.
It is. It truly is. It is a bit stressful. But then you can also, too, catch yourself really. This is the awesome aspect of it. I catch myself if I'm picking up an old habit again, or if an old pattern is coming back. I can catch it just like that.
Wonderful.
Which is really nice. And it has also really enhanced the relationship between myself and CJ and my adult.
There you go. By the way, just on a little follow-up, I always like to follow up because we discussed very deeply and profoundly hearing emotional response and hearing the implication chain inside somebody else, not what it implies to you, but what it implies to them. Right? The implications for them, what they believe are the implications. When you hear that, it's a very profound way of hearing. How is that application going?
It is coming along beautifully. Amazing how it's kind of interesting because there is no wiggle room for, I'm just going to say it, there's no room for him to gaslight.
Precisely.
There's none.
Precisely.
None. I mean, it's just like, cut that off.
Yes, because you're learning to hear inside somebody, and then they realize, oh my God, I got no secret.
Yeah.
And when people realize that, it all changes. So many people are absolutely live under this illusion, this myth, this complete figment of imagination that you can have personal secrets. I don't mean secrets about your password. I mean secrets about who you are. Sorry. Yeah. And when like, especially in this case, we're talking CJ's a teenager, right? That Sher is a grandson who lives with her. She looks after CJ, just the two of them there, right? And when he's realizing this, that I can't have secrets, in other words, I can't BS, I can't gaslight, all this other nonsense can't happen, right? It's very powerful. When they realize that you have the skill to hear how they are emotionally responding to what's being said, not only emotionally responding, but to how they are connecting implications or attaching implications that aren't there, and how they are misperceiving, misconstruing, and how you see how they're getting themselves all into a mess. Why? Why do they do that? Because it's convenient for them. Right? They can justify, excuse stuff, get out of stuff, whatever. What does the tattoo say, by the way, Sher?
I'm sorry, patience.
Patience. Wow.
Patience.
Wow.
I had this, and it's not finished.
Yeah.
It'll probably never get finished, but I got it. I got it done after Larry passed because
wonderful. Okay, so it wasn't something when you were a young woman and it was like the position was significant. Okay.
No, Larry nicknamed me Patience because I was extremely impatient.
Oh, and wow.
So yeah, so
what a gift from Larry. What a gift.
So he nicknamed me Patience, and so after he passed, I was honestly, this is my moment of honesty. I wanted to feel anything other than the heartbreak that I was feeling. And tattoos, they hurt, they sting. I mean, they're not horrific, but it was like this momentary pain that was safe rather than cutting myself. But
right, but you can also transfer the pain into the pain of enduring for the tattoo, because that's not a particularly. I mean, well, that's a more painful place than some others, right?
Yeah,
but yeah, it's supposed to be. Places.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the start of a rose, and then patience is the stem. But it's supposed to have flowers and stuff all around here. But then COVID hit. All the tattoo shops closed, so it's like, well,
all good.
I guess
the intent is there. The intent is there.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's what it's good for, and it reminds me that I need to be patient.
Yes,
so.
Yes. And that now, as part of Way of Impeccability, you cannot be impatient. Why? Because impatience is arrogance, and you're aware of that.
Yes, it is.
And you cannot be arrogant anymore. You cannot be arrogant. It's not possible. Right? So you can't be so. Yeah.
I about died that day when you through that exercise. I'm like, oh, no, I can't.
Yes. I love that. It's one of my favorites in terms of also illustrating self-leverage and implication and consequence and how you are good. It's proof of your goodness.
Yeah. Oh God, that was pretty funny one though, because when I look back,
it's great. I love that. I love that. You know, it's a life change moment that happens in that moment. And now that's one where I know it's going to come typically. Sometimes they come. I mean, they come all the time, but I can't really predict them. Right? They happen whenever. Right. That one, I know it's going to come. I love it. I love it. It's really fun to do that. All right. Beena, are you back yet? Are you still on the call? And who's this call with? Such a long call. I want to know. I'm very curious.
I was on call, but now it's already very late for me. It's like 12:40.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to end the live. I just want to say good night. I just want to say good night.
Yes. Yeah,
any closing comments before you go?
Thank you, Sher, for sharing. Thank you, Norma, for sharing that. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. And it's been very long since we connect, so that was also a treat.
I know.
So thank you so much for a wonderful poem and your sharing.
I'll come hang with you sometime this week too. I'll be back. I love you.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, love you too, Sher.
Please.
Too wonderful.
Oh yes, love you too. Love you too, Sher. Bye.
All
right. Bye-bye, everybody. Beena, don't go away. I want to come back on Zoom. Just it's went already. Wow, maybe she's too tired.
Pop her a message.
Yeah. Well, no, it's all good. If she's too tired, it doesn't matter. Just somebody who's going to come on Zoom, but they didn't want to come on the live. And so
okay.
That's all.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye, Norma. Bye-bye, Roy. Yeah,
we'll
wonderful,
talk to you
Norma.
soon.
Thank you for those wonderful comments and thank you for everything. What a wonderful life. What a wonderful life. That poem is really cool. Just to emphasize again, I love that poem. So be sure to publish it in group as well.
Yes, I
with that
will.
appropriate quote so that I can feature it and put it in your guide.
Yeah, thank
Wonderful.
you. I do
All right,
appreciate
thanks.
the help with it. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Wonderful. Bye-bye,
I'll talk to you
everybody.
soon.
All right.
Mhm.
End
Bye-bye.
meeting for all.